You do see Mayhem with a team. Mayhem Independence Crew in lane 6. No shortcuts in lane 7. Won the European semifinal. There is East Nashville in lane 10. AB CrossFit in lane 14 made some waves at the North America East semifinal. To talk about that depth of field, let's introduce you to Lauren Smith.
This year is widely regarded as one of the most open it's ever been in the team competition. From 2022, we have 7 teams returning, though, with 3 of their original roster. 2 of those are on the podium, CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue and CrossFit Invictus. If you remember back to last year, in this event, there was a great battle between Invictus and CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. Whilst they're not here, their 2 girls are under East Nashville proven, so keep your eyes on lanes 10 and 11 because there's going to be a big battle there.
Lauren, thank you. It was Invictus out front in that event, but at the very end, it was Mayhem Freedom that jumped in front and won this test by a second. Of course, Williamson and Nistler were a huge part of that. They joined with Tola Maracanyo and Tim Paulson for the proven squad here in 2023. 8 2-minute intervals, a 16-minute cap, and look at the way people fly up the rope to start things off. Devin Kim is not messing around.
But don't be fooled, people. This is going to come back to bite these athletes a little bit later on if they don't look after their grip strength. 25 overhead squats was the score to beat from heat number 1 from OBA from both their first and second pair, and that just dwindled away slowly as the fatigue started to creep in.
But you also see this is their first test of this long weekend, and the adrenaline is kicking. They are off to a fast and furious start. We hope that they can hold this all the way throughout.
119 by OBA is the number to beat on the overhead squats from the first heat. 111 by Milford right behind them. Those are the only 2 teams that eclipsed 100. Trondheim had 97, Porty had 92. This was a killer test. And here is Invictus, Devin Kim partnering with the captain, Jorge Fernandez. Remember, Jorge had a hamstring injury that kept Invictus from winning the North America West semifinal. I think he's okay.
He looks pretty good. But you talk about the rep scheme, Joel, with 119. OBA was still 56 reps away from finishing this test number 1, and just how difficult it is compared to last year when the teams were finishing in roughly 11 and a half minutes.
Power your performance with Momentous. You can enter to win the ultimate prize pack at livemomentous.com/CrossFit. 20 seconds left in this opening interval, then we'll switch to the other 2 athletes. You are facing each other for these synchronized overhead squats. Synchro at the top and bottom. In this test last year, both athletes faced the same direction, so the synchronicity all relied upon the athlete in the back. And we're off to that second pairing.
Jamie, you talk about team competition. You've been in team competition at the games. Last year, they're facing the same way, difficult way to synchronize. This year, they're facing what's preferable, what's easier.
I always feel that it's better to face each other because you can really get a feel of their body language, their facial expressions. There's so many things that are nonverbal and verbal that you can read, and where you're like, I'm going to put this down. You can see if they're shaking. You can kind of see the consistency of the rep and rate that you're going to be doing.
Well, the facial's a very big one to look at straight away.
Yes.
Awkward eye contact to lighten the mood. Krypton right now is out in front. Alex Smith, tremendous gymnast. No surprise here that was the easiest thing he'll do all weekend. He and his brother, Ben Smith, 2015 fittest man on earth, leading this Krypton team that podiumed back in 2019.
And you see the sense of urgency. You see these teams, they are running to their barbells. This is not a walk to our barbells, let's try to get there. This is a let's go, pick it up, go into that squat snatch, and let's start squatting.
25 overhead squats performed in each segment, advancing the bar down the field as we go. Josh Alshama is facing us, Brittany Weiss with her back to us. This Invictus squad returning all 4 members from last year's 3rd place team. Alshama told us, I don't like the color bronze. They decided very early that they were going to come back, and it's something new for Invictus. Typically, they don't set teams early. They decide who wants to go team, and then as they train, pick their best foursomes. They said, no. This 4 from day 1 is our group.
There was definitely unfinished business, and they knew their goal. They are not being shy about it. They came here to win the CrossFit Games.
5 seconds left, and then we'll switch pairs. And each has an interval down. What is it like in this 2 minutes when you try to recover it?
Your heart rate is spiked through the roof. Your legs are burning up. You have to make sure that you're breathing and walking. You see these athletes walking back, trying to catch their breath, trying to get that lactic acid back into their arms or legs so that they can go for the next round.
Jeremy, that's how it's done on the skier with Jorge Fernandez. He ripped those handles.
Oh, Jorge just getting that hip hinge and getting as much length out of the ski erg ropes as he can to get every single calorie he can. Normally with this sort of thing, you're going to get 1 calorie per pull. Obviously, the stronger the pull, the more calories are going to tick over, the less time you're spending on there and the more time you can recover before you have to go to your overhead squats.
You see Jorge on those rope climbs, right? He's going to get a big pulse. For some of these athletes, especially when fatigue hits, they're going to have that shorter one, keeping it close to their chest.
Is this a similar pull? You're pulling down on the skier, you're sort of pulling down on the rope, although your body weight is rising. What's the difference in the movement and how it affects you?
When you compare this to the seated legless rope climbs, I'd be much preferred to get those elbows tucked into the body as close as possible. For the ski erg, the elbows are able to get out a little bit wider to release the lats, which are going to be the strongest part of the pull for both of those movements. Now we move on to the overhead squats, where those lats now have to stabilize a weight as well as the shoulders overhead. The closer to that center of your body we can get that barbell, the easier the squat is going to be.
Five more reps, and then it's 75 in the bank for Invictus. They just got a critical no rep there. You want to try to get through this segment before time runs out, and then you can advance the barbell. That's perfectly timed with 2 more seconds in this interval.
Jamie mentioned the need for speed in the recipes to success. Athletes really coming off that start line in interval number 2 for the second pairing, really racing to position, trying to get every single second. Invictus know from last year, they got beaten by a second, so every second is absolutely crucial and trying to take that lead back from OBA.
Speaking to a lot of teams coming into this weekend, they had said every place matters. So every second matters in every single test, so they know all those little seconds are going to add up. So they are sprinting from place to place.
There are cuts, so you need to make sure you stay above each respective cut line. After 2 days, after 3 days.
We talk weather at the start and how weather affected this test number 10 from the day 4 of last year's games. The cloud cover's come over now, so the sun not really beating down. The humidity is way up though, so that's going to affect the grip strength as well on the rope. Not so much on the ski erg, but once you get to the barbell, that's going to get a little bit slippery once these athletes start to sweat a little bit more.
Move Fast, Lift Heavy is the first team back to the barbell in this interval as we check in with Lauren.
You already mentioned Jorge Fernandez and his hamstring injury. It really meant we never got a true sense of what Invictus could do at semi-final level. Same goes for CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. Ivan Dalringard, their captain, has been harboring a hip and a back issue. And Nikolai Biladel did the first day at semi-finals with severe flu. He was so disorientated. His teams had to actually move him around the floor. So these are 2 teams who have both been on the podium last year, who both perhaps struggled a bit in semi-finals, and now we really get an opportunity to see what they're capable of.
Lauren, thank you. Jeremy, that sounds like you at the gym every day.
Doesn't it what? Very disorientated regardless of what's written on the whiteboard.
Invictus is crushing this test, and it's important to note there are a lot of really good teams out on the field right now. We haven't really looked at East Nashville Proven, Move Fast, Lift Heavy. Lauren just mentioned Oslo Navy Blue. Invictus is kind of throwing down the gauntlet right now. In a wide open field with no Rich Froning and no CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, who is going to step on the throat in test 1? It's a big tone setter.
This is where we saw some of these legless rope climbs break down in the earlier heat, but it looks like all of these athletes are staying strong. Their pull looks great. They're still using that big kip on that legless and controlling it nice on the way down.
Andrea Nisler on the rope for East Nashville Proven. part of that Mayhem Freedom team the last couple of years. If you combine Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson, the greatest pair of women to ever compete as a unit on teams competition, and I don't think that's a controversial statement.
Absolutely not. Everyone knows when you're going up against them, you better bring your A game.
Invictus in front. Navy Blue is 7 back. 11 overhead squats for Move Fast, Lift Heavy. And it is East Nashville proven first to the barbell, if only by a couple of seconds here, with Nisler lifting with first-time team athlete Tim Paulson.
Interestingly, though, they are still 10 reps behind Invictus. Invictus have got the benefit of having done this as a 4. Oslo Navy Blue, another team that's done this as well. They've got a feeling of how it's going to affect them, but they haven't got the shuttle runs this time around, but they have got a lot of upper body fatigue they've got to deal with.
And as we hit the end of our 5th interval, 5 of 8, there are 2 teams at 100 or more reps. East Nashville Proven is at 100 even. Invictus is at 110. Boy, if this isn't time being a flat circle, if you have East Nashville Proven and the 2 Mayhem ladies from a year ago just creeping up on Invictus and we get a race at the finish, oh Nelly.
Move Fast Lift Heavy, though, 2 reps behind at 98, so still in touch. So this is going to be a great battle for the next 5.5 minutes. And what a test to start things off for teams. And this has been a lot more brutal than we saw on day 4 last year.
And Move Fast Lift Heavy has a lot of games experience amongst the 4 of them, so that plays a big factor in staying calm, understanding if you're not in the lead, you can make it up towards the end, saving a little bit of room in the tank for those final last rounds.
Chloe Govind-David is the newest member for Move Fast Lift Heavy. The other 3 returned from last year. Chloe was on Pro 1 Montreal in previous seasons.
And they're doing exactly what their name says. Move fast, lift heavy. Here they come, first ones to their barbells.
And that's where the timing becomes critical, right? You just did 3 overhead squats, had to drop the bar and advance because you couldn't get to the end of the segment by the last interval. So it's a couple of critical seconds as Move Fast Lift Heavy tries to play catch up here with Tola Maracanyo and Taylor Williamson. East Nashville Proven, they're going to work here, and Invictus's barbell is still untouched. Brittany Weiss and Josh Elshama have run into some trouble back at the ring.
I controlled it! Huh?
And I don't know who Josh is yelling to coach-wise back behind the line, but Invictus is running into some issues with the rope as Jorge Fernandez gets back to work with Devin Kim. Here's Elshama. Failure on the rope is deadly. Oh, that's gonna burn, and they said no rep
I
for
think
the height of it?
I think potentially even the slide down, because you've got to grip that rope as a safety factor as well all the way down. So that slide is going to be absolutely costly. But you think time under tension on that rope, Elshama's spending an eternity getting that 1 rep done.
And hand over hand is the standard. That sliding isn't allowed, but being able to get 0 reps in that round on those overhead squats is very costly for this team.
So a no rep, he has no skin left on his hands. And he now has a 7-rep deficit with East Nashville Proven at 117. No one's gonna finish this test at all today. 175 is the target total of the overhead squats.
And getting a no rep on those rope climbs is extremely frustrating, but we're seeing how he's gonna respond in his last round.
Now here comes Oslo. 97 reps right now for Avon Ringard and Leanna Richter. We have 1 more 2-minute interval to go when these 20 seconds are done. And Oslo is now onto that 125 square. Move Fast Lift Heavy is a rep behind East Nashville Proven. Boy, Nisler and Paulson look like they are attached. Final 2 minutes.
And what did we see with East Nashville Proven? They were not in the lead in the first couple of rounds, but they slowly crept up, and here they are.
Are you sure Rich Froning's not on that team? Isn't that the play, right? You bide your time, you play your strategy, and at the end, you finish.
I reckon the girls have still got Rich Froning's voice in their head.
Absolutely, I don't think that ever goes away.
Christian Harris here working for Move Fast, Lift Heavy. It is something we talked about, the Proven crew with. They trained under Rich Froning for several years. And Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson are great in their own right, but they get that tutelage. And now that unit trains under Tia Toomey for Proven. And Tola Maracano trained under Annie Thorisdottir last year. The coaching of that unit is unreal. And with a minute left to go in this test, you're seeing it on display. A 9-rep lead for the team from Proven.
And probably enough of a buffer for the Proven team just to chip away, knowing exactly where OBA were in the previous heat. They don't need to really exert themselves too much, but they need to make sure that they're extending their lead over.
Well, here's the thing though. East Nashville Proven with 30 seconds to go is still back at the rig. Move Fast Lift Heavy is doing work on the overhead squats. So are the Franco's Misfits. Move Fast Lift Heavy is now 5 reps back. And with 15 seconds to go, Move Fast Lift Heavy. They didn't want to be messed around with, and they are letting people know. Mayhem also in the mix though. Where did Mayhem Independence come from? Talk about the Rich Froning method. We'll lift from the back to the front, going in sets of 2. So Move Fast, Lift Heavy, and Oslo Blackout will lift first. Then Trondheim and Mayhem, Jeunesse, No Shortcuts, OBA East Nashville, Navy Blue, and Invictus. But East Nashville, the group from Proven, gonna throw up some silly weights here today. At least that's the expectation.
Expectation, I think that's going to be absolute reality as well. Time to do some moving for the Proven team, and I think today is going to be that day.
Open up with Move Fast, Lift Heavy. They typically do, as their name implies. They are on the left side of your screen. Right side of your screen is Oslo Blackout.
When we think about Olympic lifting, you want to do both. You want to move fast and lift heavy at the same time. As speed under the bar, one of those essential components to getting an efficient lift.
Angelo DeChico, successful at 255. Zoe Jones at 140 for Mayhem.
3, 2, 1.
G-Shock is the official watch of the NOBULL CrossFit Games and is giving you the chance to win a new G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. Make sure you visit gshock.com/CrossFit. And East Nashville Proven, Tim Paulson opens at 265, Andrea Nisler at 170. OBA, we also expect to see some big lifts from. Nick Hecht starting with a 245-pound snatch.
3, 2, 1.
Now we'll get Navy Blue on the left side of your screen. Ingrid Hodenmere and Avend Dalringard, good at 235.
Jorge, no issue with that hamstring either, bouncing straight out of the bottom of that squat.
Jorge Fernandez's hamstring limiting him at semifinals. That's a big save at the bottom of the squat for Devin Kim.
She missed behind her in that first attempt. She came back, hit it in the right correct spot, sat right down in the bottom, stood that up.
First snatch for the second pair here. Christian Harris hits 265 for Move Fast, Lift Heavy. We'll see Kyra Milligan opening at 170 for Mayhem Independence. As you would expect, big numbers and an easy snatch from Milligan. Sam DeMeester, a clean 255. Independence with that first place. Then they took a 17th yesterday, so 7th overall for the Mayhem team.
Think about the weight difference between all of these lifters. Teams at the front that are currently leading Oslo Navy Blue and Invictus the opportunity to turn around and see exactly what the other teams are lifting. Just to add a few more pounds to that barbell each lift.
Tola Maracchino is about to open with 275, as we all do.
Without deadlifts.
Right side of your screen in the pink knee sleeves. And yeah. Joey Tortora at 245, good for OBA on the left. Does that impact what you do, Jeremy, if you can turn around and see what everybody else is lifting, or do you have a plan and stick to it?
Oh, big time. We saw it at the Torian Pro last year with Cara Saunders and Tia Claire Toomey, and Tia saw what Cara lifted and just added a few more pounds to the barbell just to make sure she got ahead and made sure she got the win in that test at the Torian Pro.
175 for Richter for Oslo, 160 for Weiss.
That first round through, you saw a lot of these athletes make their first attempt, and what that does for your confidence going into that second round. You feel so secure, you're gonna go for that next one.
Oh, simultaneous hits for Oslo Blackout.
Little dance back there for the ladies.
It was Ingrid Tondal with that 180 connection.
1 lift.
Zoe Jones only going to jump up to 150. 270 is good for Angelo DeChico.
And these athletes know their limits. They know what they're capable of. They know what jumps they need to make.
And again, this is where we talk strategy a little bit as a team. If you know you have somebody who is not as great an Olympic lifter, maybe I push my boundaries if I know I am, right?
If you do not, your weakest person on your team needs to hit as close to their 1 rep max as possible. And then your big heavy hitters, they can take a risk and go for a little bit of higher numbers.
All right, 285 on the bar here for Tim Paulson and the proven crew from East Nashville. Andrea Nisler just destroyed 180, and Paulson made 285 look easier. Heck's good at 265, but it's less impressive when Paulson just did that.
But you look at the position of the barbell for both Paulson and Maracchino. Both great shoulder mobility and getting that barbell into position. Stabilization, so important in this lift.
Big lift for Ingrid Hodenmere, 185. Top end strength is not the strength of Oslo Navy Blue. I don't want to say this is a damage control event for them, but this is one where they're not going to win. That's a huge number for Hodenmere.
And speaking to a lot of these teams, they know that every placement matters. Every rep counts, every second counts, so that making sure that every pound on this barbell does make a big difference.
And we've got a 190 miss for Blackout. So back to Trondheim. And Milligan only makes a 10-pound jump. And good patience, Jamie, under the bar on the right side for Mayhem Independence.
Great first pull. She was patient throughout that second drive. Pulled herself under, stabilized, stood that barbell up strong.
Andre Houdet on the right side for no shortcuts, 275. Easy as pie. I mean, that's a good run for no shortcuts. Joey Tortora gets a little pat on the back from Nicholas Hecht.
Tola going for 305 now.
270 for Tortora. Tola Maracchino only 305. Oh, he's going to kick himself. That was easy. 305 pounds overhead for the strongest man out there. And 192 is successful for Taylor Williamson. Kelsey Keel just hit 205 for OBA. 185, big number for Richter. 170 for Brittany Weiss out of Invictus. And 260, Billadell hung onto the platform.
And for this level, technique. What is going to get you that lift is a successful positioning, your timing, your tempo. Absolutely beautiful and textbook from all these athletes.
We're now on to the clean and jerk. Each athlete will have 2 attempts here as we move through. Your total score is everybody's snatch and clean and jerk added together. There is nowhere to hide in this test.
Well, you think about proficiency of movement, Jamie, you just mentioned it. Technique is everything. Olympic weightlifters, they go through this and they go to the Commonwealth Games, the Olympic Games, just to do this test. These athletes have got to be proficient at this, and they're going to go ride a bike for an hour. Then they're going to do some gymnastics as well. So they've got to have a great balance right across each of the 3 components. that make up CrossFit,
That's the beauty of CrossFit.
and then do it fast.
We've got a 300 opener and a successful lift from Janas. I don't want to say they've flown under the radar because they've been on the podium before, but Elliot Janine just throwing down the gauntlet there with that opener. Andrea Nisler easy under the bar at 2:15 and easy under the jerk as well. Paulson's going to start at 3:35. Hecht at 3:15. That's successful. It's going to be 3:20 for Ringard. Odemir opens at 2:45. On the right side, Kim at 2:25. Jorge, a push jerk at 3:15.
Work to your strength, Joel. Should have strict pressed it.
You know, it's funny. Invictus said they struggled at semifinals, and they had a tie for the most points. But Josh Alshama said if Jorge Fernandez's hamstring was healthy, they win running away. And he might have been right.
And I believe it.
First place team overall right now.
Now going back to OBA, Hecht, I thought he had a lot more in the tank on that first lift as well, so I expect a bigger jump this time around.
And like our recipes for success, you start with something that you know you can get on the board and get your team a score in there. And then from there, we've seen 20-pound jumps on here, so interesting to see what we see in the second round.
Oh, nice form lift, 3 blues for Demeester. Right side of your screen from Mayhem Independence.
You got to think about when you do get that lift and you feel good, biting off too much more than you can chew. Hey, and you're in the lead as well. Hey, we're doing okay on the leaderboard. Do I just push it a little bit more, or do you stay conservative?
Strategy. Strategy comes into all of this.
Lucas Hughes at 3:15 for Janas. Now here's Taylor Williamson on the right side for East Nashville. Is going to open at 2:15. Tolamore Akinyo at 3:36 to start. Kelsey Keel starting with some big numbers. Oh, we've got successful lifts across the board. Tortora makes it 4 for 4 in that round. Big hits, big numbers.
And this is where your stronger athletes really get to shine. We love to see them with the heavy barbell in their hands.
Keel hit 250. This is 245 from Richter. 320 good for Billadell. 195 from Invictus's Weiss. 245 for Richter. Tell you what, Navy Blue has had one hell of a test to start their day.
So not only can they run fast, they can lift very heavy as well.
They can cycle okay as well.
They won the bike event yesterday, the bike test yesterday, to vault them back into silver medal contention or silver medal position. And Blackout doesn't get an attempt off on the men's side in that window. Zoe Jones at 210 for Mayhem. 245 up for Trondheim.
And we talked about this before, a clean and jerk are two separate movements, so they're gonna have to clean it to their shoulders first, take a second if their feet are wide from that squat, walk their feet in, dip straight up and straight down, drive that bar up overhead, stand up strong.
Julian Kromoshvitz, right side from No Shortcuts. Ooh. Oh, he just couldn't get under the bar.
Jamie, you make it sound so easy. You just got to do it with a heavy barbell, that's all.
Just drive yourself under 325.
It's easy.
No big deal.
230 for Lundberg. 225 here for Nisler. 350 for Paulson. Paulson, yes. Hecht from OBA wants 335! And he didn't have a chance to regroup.
And that's what we saw from Ben Smith in that earlier heat. Instead of dropping it, bringing it down to your shoulders.
Now 245 for Hodemir, 335 for Ringard. I mean, it's just easy across the board in these front platforms. Fernandez at 345 was easy. Ringard, been here before.
Good lift from Devin Kim too at 240.
When I competed, my teammate Andrew Kong and we had a 100-pound rule, so he had to lift 100 more pounds than whatever I snatched or clean and jerked.
I don't like that rule.
Like total or per round?
Christian Harris with that big clean and jerk in that back.
For Thurman Moe gets underneath a 290-pound clean and jerk for Trondheim on the left side. And Janas now left, no shortcuts right.
Their first pull from the ground will tell you a big difference if they will hit this lift or not. If they can pull that from the ground, keep that barbell close, catch in a good position in the bottom, that'll make a big difference.
Power your performance with Momentous. Enter to win the ultimate prize pack at livemomentous.com. Maracanio just hit 350. Taylor Williamson, 230. Keel at 265.
Maracanio left a lot out on that platform on both lifts.
Brittany Weiss, right side for Invictus, fighting to clean the 205. Alshama crushing 350. Weiss, a good lift. 250 as well. Leanna Richter. Oh, Navy Blues having a great start to the day.
Love that. When you hit a big lift, you know how good that feels. Her teammates are pumped for her.
Oslo Navy Blue won the running event called Fast at last year's games. 18:23 to run 3 miles. Again, this is a little bit more. As a 5K, we are off.
And Joel, the start of the 5K, it's not very wide, and 10 teams bustling for position in that first bit. A great shot, a mass. And talk about mass, CrossFit has got the largest in-person activation worldwide, the 5K. Make sure you jump onto the app and log your score, but they're doing 5K here on site, 1,000 people expected.
You can track your time while you run that 5K on your G-Shock, the official watch of the NOBULL CrossFit Games, giving you the chance to win a new G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar spot, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. You can visit gshock.com/CrossFit for more details. All right, we are in the first stretch of this 5K. How do you pace this out? Is this a run hard from the gun? Is this an 80% effort for 80% of the run and then you leave enough for a kick? How do you attack this?
Well, interesting enough, I talked to Sam Briggs, the engine, who ran this in the age group, and she is known for her running and her endurance abilities. And she said the strategy, she likes to have negative split times, which she gets faster each lap of this 5K. However, running with a team is going to be a little bit more difficult because you can't pace off yourself. You need to pace off of your slowest runner.
And that's an important point, Jamie, where you put your runners in relation to what you want out of your team effort. I spoke to one of the teams in warm-up just before this, and the strategy was going to be put the fastest runner first, the second fastest at the end. So if need be, they can push the slow runners along a little bit and not have a caboose.
And that's what was part of our recipe for success. In these later rounds and towards the end, you will physically see these athletes or their teammates with their hand on their low back helping push them along.
Now, interesting from a strategy standpoint, look at how wide a gap Invictus in the white leaders jersey has opened up. Part of that, I have to imagine, is they trust their ability to run this fast. Is there a strategic sense to that as well, though, in that they are forcing the people behind them to chase them and to run at a pace that maybe they're not comfortable with?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you get into competition, one, your adrenaline kicks in. You want to go a lot faster. You know where everyone is around you, so sometimes that might be a trap to try to stay close by them. But also, what a huge advantage. If they're wearing those white leader jerseys, they were in the front of the pack, and that makes a huge difference in their starting placement, starting this race off.
About to run through the campground here. See if somebody like beers an athlete as we get
It's
through.
a drink station, it's just a little bit different. But Lauren mentioned it at the start, before the 5K kicked off, getting that dust kicked up in your face, so getting out to a good lead early, making sure you're not dealing with one of those aspects of the run. It's hot enough as it is.
It'll be a 3-lap race. So just a smidgen over a mile per lap as we pass the 3-minute mark. That'll give you a general idea of a mile pace for these athletes once they come back around and into North Park. Oslo Navy Blue is in second place with Leanna Richter in the front leading the pace. Josh Alshama in the white headband leads for Invictus. And I'll go back 2 years ago to the running event, and Jorge Fernandez, who right now is the caboose for Invictus, tried to push the pace on their run at the 2021 games to the point where Brittany Weiss was struggling, and she kept screaming from the back of the pack, "Jorge, slow down, I can't." And he said, you're going to, because you're either going to keep pace with us or you're going to let go of the rope and you're going to have to catch up. So that's where your motivation and maybe a little bit of a sardonic way or a sadistic way comes into, hey, push your teammates along.
You have a choice, and it's one. Keep up.
As Jeremy mentioned, there is a community 5K throughout the CrossFit community today that you can participate in at home as well. Today's Global 5K Day, we are celebrating with a VIP 5K, so hit that 5K today. It's the most programmed workout of all time on CrossFit Programming's main site, 113 times. You can enter your benchmark score in the CrossFit app as well. Let's head down to Lauren Smith.
Yeah, the runners have just all come past me, and it's Trondheim that are flanking CrossFit Invictus up front. They've closed that gap. They probably had about 4 to 5 meters. It's now at less than a meter as they are, in effect, drafting off them down the hill and back into North Park.
Trondheim is a repeat team here at the Games last year, although only with one returning member in Vor Thurman Moe. That's Vor leading the way with the white shades, just behind Jorge Fernandez.
We got to think, when you get out to a lead, Jamie, you can probably attest to this, you can set a certain pace. If you get stuck in that pack, you're going to be relied upon for the pack group or the lead pack to be pulling you along at a certain pace, is making sure you get that break out and sort of getting into your stride and getting things a little bit more comfortable. You can do within your team.
Yeah, and again, speaking with Sam Briggs before that, she was in the age group division and known as the engine in this. She actually said the tips to overtaking is during the flats and the grassy areas of this course. There is a part of this course that has gravel that is really not great for it's not the instability of that. And she said for herself and Scott Panchik, who don't have the best knees in CrossFit, that was tough on them.
All right, we are coming back into North Park now, so about the 1 lap mark. Sub 6 minute mile to lead the pack here for Invictus, with Trondheim quite literally on their heels.
We think about a really fast 5K run, anything under 20 minutes is going to be really good. Something I've never been able to achieve, obviously. And you're pretty renowned for your running, Jamie Hagia, and you've done something similar to this on a similar course as well.
Yes, we did have to swim before this, but I ran as a 4-person team, and I will tell you, I was the weak link. Speaking of those bookends, I was in the middle being pushed along, so that's why I know.
And here's a move for Trondheim. They have overtaken Invictus. A pass to the inside as we embark on lap number 2. Look at Torian. They're in 3rd place right now, starting to separate themselves a little bit and in trouble. Entered this event in 29th place overall. Again, we are cutting to the top 30 at the end of competition today. Jeremy, this is a big event for Torian because we thought the test this morning was going to be a big test, and the weight totals didn't necessarily stack up to what Torian's capable of, so this is a bounce-back event or test.
Oh, big time, and coming in as the #1 Oceania contender into this, we expected them to be probably in a bit of a higher position than what they are. And the one we expected to be a lot higher coming up was East Nashville Proven, but they've just run past us in our commentary position and not probably sitting where they want to.
I was able to speak with Andrea Nissler right before this test, and she did say that this is a one that is going to be a tough one for them as a whole this weekend, but if they make it past this, they are excited for every other test coming up after this.
Teams starting to separate themselves quite a bit now, where leads are turning into isolated pictures. Trondheim qualified out of the European Regional, one of 4 teams from Norway to make it here to the CrossFit Games. They were 8th in the European Regional. And again, Vor Thurman Moe, the only returner from last year's team, with Stein, Moe, and Nilsson, Jorgen Skevik, and Tobias Opdahl, who travels about 1,000 kilometers to train, about a 2-hour flight to train with this team. So really, what's a 5K?
Easy. Invictus now sitting comfortably in second position. They've got to be careful that they don't try and push and catch where Trondheim are. Currently just staying in their own lane. Jamie, you mentioned it before. Just run your own race, making sure you're sitting where you want to, and if you do want to have a little bit of a push, you've got to wait till really late in this 5K to hit that finish line.
Right, you think about it, they're on their second lap out of the 3, so if you make a push too early, you can burn out and it can be atrocious for your team.
9 minutes in, expecting someone to finish in about the 18 to 19 minute range as we get another look at Trondheim. Back down to Lauren.
I was chatting to Trondheim when they were in their training camp in Rockford earlier this week, and actually Jorgen Skevik tore his hamstring only a week after semi-finals, and he did that by sprinting. So the fact that they are so comfortably on this run is a testament to how he's managed that injury and how they're working together as a team.
Yeah, Lauren, and that's a tough injury to take because Skevik competed at CrossFit at the individual elite level quite a while ago. He was 16th at the Games back in 2017. And then upon retiring from elite competition, he ran a marathon, which is what most people do when they retire from fitness. But you figure he would be the runner on this team, so for him to sustain that injury and bounce back from it, and now, at least early on, pace this event, okay.
Trondheim have got a really interesting strategy with their team members. They've got 3 out front and 1 at the back, and probably your weakest runner at the back trying to get into that slipstream. You see it often in cycling, not so much in running because they're not going that fast, but probably a good strategy for the Trondheim team.
I actually like this dynamic, right? You're going to have your 3 in front, almost like a diamond shape. And that person in the back is, if you can get a little bit of pull if you're hanging on to that. But you see them right there. They just made a quick switch very quick switch. So he went to the back of the pack. Now maybe he's looking to make a move to be able to push her that final lap.
That's Tobias Opdahl in the back, Jorgen Skevik in the front. Vor Thurman Moe and Steinmoen Nilsson are the 2 females. Vor leading the way. Stein just behind her, 4:62.
Another thing to think about is your communication. You've obviously got to be doing this stuff, training with your team. You get into a test like this one, which is a grueling one, you haven't got a whole lot of time to talk, so you've got to probably go with hand gestures, maybe. When do you shift? When do you move? When do you push? When do you pull back?
Oh, absolutely. You know, as one of the weakest runners on my team, I had to literally communicate, screaming at my team, we must slow down. I cannot keep this pace.
You and Jorge Fernandez would not have been good teammates.
I would have been dropped from that rope, absolutely.
Passing the 11:30 mark here, and again, heading back toward North Park. So we're looking at just over 6-minute miles at the front of this race. And that jives with what we saw in the fast event, a 3-mile run last year here at the Games. This is 5Ks, so just over 3 miles. And it is Trondheim. Again, only Thurman Moe was on their Games team last year. That did finish 29. But this is a group that has experience and a group that's trying to bring some respect to Northern Norway as well, because everybody moves down south. They go to Oslo. CrossFit Oslo has that huge contingent here at the Games. But don't forget Trondheim and the affiliate that is owned by Matilda Garnis, who's competing on the elite side. I do. No, hang on.
And look at the time that just ticked by. 12 minutes 35. That's actually, according to World Athletics, that is the fastest 5K run time ever. And you go to the worldwide 5K that we're trying to get done here, it doesn't matter actually what time you get. It's just about achieving something, getting to that distance. Like running 5K for a lot of people is a tough thing to do. But 12 minutes 35 is a bit ridiculous, really.
And if we're looking at negative split times, if they're looking at getting faster each lap, running a 6-minute mile and be able to hold that across the 3 laps is going to be extremely impressive.
Hitting the 13.5-minute mark, you saw right past the ice water station, so a chance to rehydrate on this run. Afterwards, all these athletes are going to hit the ice barrel. And we walked past the ice barrel station after the individuals had completed Alpaca not that long ago, and that thing is getting utilized today.
Oh, there's some forearms getting thrown straight in there. Emma McQuaid fully dunked up to her neck.
Number one, just to get yourself to relax from a body standpoint, but get that body temperature, get that heart rate down.
Oh, recovery is the name of the game, especially this week at the CrossFit Games. They put in some grueling tests, and having that as a recovery tool. We might go and jump in that ice barrel after this. It's getting a little bit hot.
This is an incredible read for Trondheim. You saw things opening up on that first lap. It was Invictus that was pushing the pace, and Invictus is still in second. But that gap that was about 20, 25 meters, that slowly became 40 meters, very quickly became 150 meters. And once you lose the leaders, it's hard to know what you're chasing after.
Look, in your first lap, everyone is excited. They are going out fast. They are running as hard as they can, maybe a little faster than they'd like. And then as that fatigue starts to accumulate, that's going to add on seconds as each lap passes by.
Well, there you see Invictus just crossing your screen, and the pack starting to make their way to them. Oslo Navy Blue. There's Avon Dalringard just running off the left side of your screen. You have Preston Da and Victor Langsford on the left, the Swedish super team.
Joel, you mentioned the spread of the teams now, but only 3 points separating each position so far.
There is CrossFit Krypton, and Ben Smith, although gingerly, guys, he is running. You can see clearly has his knee taped up after hurting himself on the Olympic total, and this was that injury on the clean and jerk. 2015 fittest man on earth. Initially misses the jerk here. He tries to go for it again, and that was not the right move for Ben Smith. But at least in the moment, our concern assuaged here as he's back out there to run a 5K.
And looking really solid on his run. I saw him back in the athlete warm-up area, and he was ready to go. It looked really good news for their team. Glad to see him out there running strong.
Oh, when you've got a Games champion in the field, it's always exciting to see them actually coming together. When you're competing with your brother as well, it's just awesome.
And you think about how much of this is physically taxing on the body, but also a mental grind. This is a long, hard, fast racing, a great pace you have to keep up. So that mental fatigue is going to be, we'll see who has the strongest mental mind as well.
Second place, leaders overall.
We see Josh Alshama leading the pack there. I spoke with him right before this race, and he said that he is going to be in charge of pacing, but Devin Kim does not like to know the split time. She doesn't want to know where they're running at. She just wants to hold that rope and follow along with the pace he's going at.
Tell me nothing. Oslo Navy Blue, back-to-back silver medals to CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. Of course, Freedom out of the picture this year. There's move fast, lift heavy. A lot of pack running here for a vast majority of these athletes. There's the Franco's Misfits. Tell you what, those blue NOBULL hats that all the athletes have, it's a good look.
Now you think about training as your team, and you've got to get that communication and everything sorted out, Jamie. In your experience as a team athlete, how often do you practice long distance, grueling, grindy stuff?
Yeah, you know, after semifinals is done, you know that the CrossFit Games is going to bring in odd objects, long runs, swims, things outside of the gym. So you definitely, after semifinals, preparing for the games, I guarantee you a lot of these teams were outside running 5Ks, mile times, just a wide range because you don't know what is coming, the unknown and the unknowable.
All fists up in the air here for Trondheim as they start to make their way back to North Park. They can see behind them. They know there's nobody there. Trondheim with a 15th and a 3rd place in their 2 tests yesterday. Performed well on the lift this morning. Entered our 4th test today in 17th overall. Plenty clear of tonight's cut line. Finish line is on the turf here inside North Park. And we'll see if Trondheim can make it in under 19 minutes. They're gonna have to boogie. Doesn't matter. This is a massive test win for the Norwegians. It's quite literally a victory lap for CrossFit Trondheim. That's a 5K as a team in just over 19 minutes. Test win in test number 4.
That's incredible, doing sub 4-minute splits as a team holding a rope. So out of your normal stride as well.
We'll just wait for somebody else to.
Maybe the secret, I need to move to Norway. I'll become a better runner.
Here's Invictus. So the Sea of Green will maintain their overall lead heading into test 5 tonight. But I mean, Trondheim gonna win this thing by better than 30 seconds. Invictus is in second. Now we have a race. Invictus unconquerable. It's all about the San Diegans. They're in third. Torian winds up in 4th. That's a huge result for the Aussies. They're in grave danger of being cut tonight. That will certainly help that case. And now it's just the floodgates opening and everybody flowing in.
Yeah, Joel, you mentioned Torian coming in with probably one of the heaviest athletes there is in Royce Dunn. So a good run from him.
And the Franco's Misfits, Shaylin Laurie, Brandon Luckett, Logan Collins, Alexis Johnson. Teams trying to chase each other down. Milford looks like they're gonna hold off, no shortcuts. Andre Houdet is trying to drag his team across the finish. We've got another all-out foot race. And I do believe all 4 athletes from PSC were able to get across first to win that one. Oslo Nice, which has the 2 women from Oslo Purple Red that crushed the run last year on it, comes across.
And Joel, we've just hit 21 minutes and we've had about 20 teams finish. So they're hoofing it.
That's about 7-minute mile pace. I can't even do that for 1.
There is no cap on this event, and East Nashville Proven needs every second of it. One of the favorites coming in, East Nashville Proven could get run down here. Oh, look at this race, Omnia. That'll come down to the chip timer, and it is East Nashville Proven by 0.5 of a second over Omnia for 20th and 21st place. And Training Think Tank is carrying Hannah Hardy. The games veteran and the captain of this team. And you hate to see that for Hannah Hardy. This is a Training Think Tank team that Max El Haj is so proud of from that affiliate because they are all true Training Think Tank athletes that have come together under that methodology, and they have poured their souls into this 5K.
Athletes not wasting any time in this sun. As soon as they are done over that line, they are straight into the shade. It is absolutely belting down.
It's a 20th place finish for East Nashville Proven. That's the squad with Taylor Williamson and Andrea Nisler, who, remember, were on CrossFit Mayhem Freedom over the last couple of years. And if you think back to the fast event at last year's games, Mayhem Freedom struggled on the run and then never lost another test from that point forward. And spoke to Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson about that leading up to these games, and I said, what did you think going into that moment where Oslo Navy Blue had an opportunity to surpass you, but you jumped back in front? And they both said, we really don't remember it. It was just in the flow of the games. We'll have some good tests. We'll have some bad tests. We knew our wheelhouses were still to come. I don't think they're worried.
But that's probably the thing that's going to separate them from the inexperienced teams that do come to the games. They know they're going to go through ebbs and flows right across the week. be able to just take those hits and just move on and put that aside.
Here's the Coda Redemption team with athletes that were on a couple of different Coda squads a year ago that did not make it to the games for a variety of reasons. This is their redemption run. But you can see, Lauren talked about the weather at the start of the race. It is hot, and these athletes are wearing it.
And going back to those highs and lows you're going to see throughout a long weekend of tests, some of the best advice I got when I was competing at the CrossFit Games was don't get too high and don't get too low. You know you're going to do well in some and not well in others. If you can stay in the middle, you know, and all these athletes are very experienced. They know not to get too excited or too hard on themselves, because you have to stay in the right mindset to keep on moving forward.
And again, that's Hannah Hardy being carted off. The Games athlete with CrossFit West Chase in 2021, captained a team for West Chase last year before coming under the TTT umbrella.
And to put things in perspective, 24 minutes is still an 8-minute mile pace.
Oh, my PR is still 3 minutes out there.
I'm going on lap 2 still. Don't worry about you guys. We got to think now, fast forward to the next test that is coming up. Recovery is going to be imperative. Making sure they're hydrating, getting enough nutrition in. Ice barrels, they're going to be sitting in them for a good 10-15 minutes trying to cool that body temp down.
It's the Templo team that had a top 5 finish in the lift event this morning.
And I absolutely love the programming design of today. We saw a weightlifting test earlier this morning and now a monostructural. Nothing fancy. Go out there and run a 5K all together.
Yeah, what is your fitness?
Exactly.
That's what we're here for.
How about the judges? It's so easy. Run. See you back here in a minute or a few minutes.
Jamie, how does that test your fitness system to, in one day, you think about the Adam Klink deadlift 500 pounds and run a under 5-minute mile. We didn't deadlift this morning, but how does it tax your system to go out there with a very heavy Olympic lift, take a couple hours break and go out there and run a 5K as fast as you can?
The fittest, it will never be an issue for them. The thing is, we want to be well-rounded athletes, so you should be able to lift heavy. You should be able to go run a 5K, a mile, 10 miles if you wanted to, you know? So these athletes are just showcasing and their display of incredible fitness at this level.
We're wasting no time getting in the ice buckets. This is Cape CrossFit, the team from Africa. I had a great conversation with Callum Diebel leading up to this. I said, listen, like, teams from Africa, the best they've ever finished at the games is 20. So what's the expectation and how do you attack this? And he said, listen, no matter where we are, we're fighting for positioning. 24th is better than 25th. 17th is better than 18th. And it's all about creating future opportunities for teams from Africa, from Asia, from South America, the regions where the sport is still growing, so that people can see it and say, we can do it too.
I have always been a firm believer in representation matters. And when you see someone from your home country out there doing it, you see them, you know that it is achievable. So that is a big component. They are doing great work for their community.
The Finkel sisters, Regan and Brady. Ashton is their third sister, the youngest of the trio. Their parents are big fitness enthusiasts back home in South Africa as well. Coming from the oldest box in Cape Town, Cape CrossFit, as CrossFit begins and continues to establish a foothold in South Africa.
Well, you got to think, Joel, the Africa and Asian continents, it's almost 3/4 of the entire world's population, and we're just getting started there. What is going to happen? I don't know what, but I'm excited to see what the future holds.
And all teams are now in as the final 3 athletes from Training Think Tank are actually going to come across and finish the run. Lane 2, they won the Olympic total this morning. CrossFit OBA had a very good day on the Olympic total. Kelsey Keel with a 260-pound clean and jerk. They are in lane 9, feeling real good heading into this final test on Friday. But let's go down to Lauren Smith. We talked about the 2 ladies from East Nashville Proven. Lauren, they got some help, though, when it comes to the bike on this year's team.
Oh, Joel, they really do. Please tell me you remember Echo Press, the individual test from last year. Tim Paulson is a machine on a machine. He got 30 calories in 29 seconds. I spoke to him backstage. he said that they are going to load that second bike so he gets the maximum time on the Rogue Echo bike as physically possible.
You see the leaders' jerseys on Invictus, Oslo navy blue. Coming in with all the hype this year. No shortcuts, is in 4th place, making moves today. Here's Tim Paulson on the bike, and that is a
Conservative
casual stuff. G-Shock is giving you a chance to win a new G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. Scan that QR code or visit gshock.com/CrossFit. Honestly, I'm disappointed, Tim.
This is where experience comes into play. We all know starting out way too hot does not end well for most of us. Tim is going to come out and make sure that this is a 16-minute workout so he can serve some in the tank for the end.
When you think about what he did last year, he didn't start that way. He finished that way. So he's going to just build something all the way along. Maybe he needs to warm up a little bit before he gets there.
Yeah, in fairness, this test does end on a bike, so we'll wait and see.
He will be judged on the last Echo bike, though.
The best bike handstand hold combination to start was 4 minutes and 22 seconds. That was the Franco's Misfits in the last heat. Notable that they do not have the overall best time to beat. Brittany Weiss in the Invictus leaders jersey. No one else has worn the leaders jersey since test 2.
And what we're looking at here is going to be a high-skill gymnastics piece. On those handstand holds in the back, you want to make sure that you are nice and stacked, elbows locked out, pressing tall through those shoulders. Your hands are your fingertips are actually gonna help you with that balance, and using your legs to help find that counterbalance as well.
You said have your shoulders stacked, Jamie. What does that mean for people trying handstand holds back at home? What's that shoulder strength like?
When you're handstand walking, you need your weight to move forward. Thinking about it as walking, right? You're gonna lean forward, that's gonna cause you to take a step. This is a static hold, you need your weight stacked on top of your body. Your midline squeeze nice and tight. This is when coaches say squeeze your butt to make sure everything is in a tight line. It's gonna help you out the best.
How about the wide spread of that stance for Invictus and Josh Alshama?
And you know what? That might be a great way for him to find that balance for him. You see athletes with their feet in a split stance both ways, and also bent knees as well. It's kind of whatever works best for these athletes.
The 10 general physical skills of CrossFit. Balance is one of those, and athletes who aren't elite gymnasts like we see in nice strict position have got to use whatever they've got. But you think about scaling this movement, which is a very difficult movement to do, and we like to scale everything within CrossFit. You can actually get into a position where you're actually facing a wall and put your toes on the wall and still support your body weight.
Just saw Jorge Fernandez kick down for Invictus. He also had a tremendously wide stance. So strategy, at least for the guys, for your overall leaders right now, because as Brittany Weiss kicks up, she is in a split stance.
You see Jorge out here on the bike. We have seen from him that pain face as well. So I think along with Tim Paulson, we might get some great facial expressions from Jorge Fernandez as well. Notice right there, the seat height. When you have teammates of different heights, it's really important that adjusting the seat is going to take time. But if you're going to think about getting up into that handstand hold and hammering out that bike, you want the to maximize those calories on there. As a shorter athlete, I prefer it a little bit lower.
Yeah, but when every second counts in a test like this, you're at the CrossFit Games, you've got to try everything to get to that finish point as quick as you can. Those seconds are just so crucial. And changing that seat every single time, that's going to just cause 2-3 seconds that you don't really need. But it could be that 2 or 3 seconds that you need to recover.
.422 is the best split. And that's gone. Here comes Invictus in 4:07 onto the second piece of this test. Best time so far. And not only that, best time by a lot.
So
and Jorge Fernandez up into that ring support.
We just saw the Marnie Sykes issue, grabbing one ring from one lane and one from the other. So there's crucial seconds as well.
Let's go down to Lauren.
Josh Alchama of CrossFit Invictus actually used to be my affiliate coach a couple of years ago. And I remember during lockdown, he ran a program called Machine Strength, which was all based about having machines in your garage. And that's how he trained throughout that COVID period. This is very much within his wheelhouse. Also, he's going to be the first male to wear that white leaders jersey that's come out of the United Kingdom, and he's worn it for 3 tests so far. I know he's going to be super proud of that accomplishment.
Lauren, thank you. And Josh has dedicated himself big time coming into this year. Says he's treated this very much like a professional sport, more than he ever has. He's in his 30s. He relocated his pregnant wife to San Diego. He said, if I'm going to go all in, I am all in. I'm doing my accessory lifting. I'm doing my recovery. I am coming here to win with my team. I do not like the color bronze. And he has that medal from last year.
And I was able to speak with Josh Alchama before heading into this week of competition as well. And he said this team brings so much to the table. Britt has an endurance and gymnastics specialty. Deb is her absolute strength. We saw earlier in that weightlifting test. Jorge has that athletic mindset coming from baseball. And Josh himself is very well-rounded and very good on machines. So this makes for a very great team, and no wonder they're in the white.
Josh Alchama is without an Invictus V tattoo on his chest, though, which he said he would get at one point. He told Jorge Fernandez, and then Josh's wife vetoed that. So, happy wife, happy life.
But you're in a 100-meter final and Usain Bolt is not in the field. You sort of pick up a little bit. Mayhem not in the field this year. I think Invictus are looking a lot more steady, a lot more comfortable, and they're leading all the way, and they look comfortable in the lead.
And speaking with them, you know, they came into last year, they knew they could do well, but I think when they got into that 3rd place finish, it changed their mindset. And this year, they came in knowing their goal is to win the CrossFit Games.
This test brought to us by Momentous. Power your performance with Momentous and enter to win an ultimate prize pack at livemomentous.com/CrossFit.
Joel, just a quick one. I'm getting excited now because we're getting closer to the Echo Bike and Tim Poulsen at the end.
125 calories first on the rower.
One thing that is nice is that you can actually see where they are on the calories for their rowers. They're moving it up. You see it go from 50 to 75. So even though you're rowing and going to the back of that rotation, when it's your turn, you have some kind of idea of how far you are and how many more calories you need.
And you can see the Invictus marker, as you alluded to, Jamie, go from 50 to 75. However, the East Nashville proven marker was already at 75. So our team from Nashville has taken the lead after Invictus was the first team to the rowing.
Is anyone going to challenge Tim Poulsen for a Tim Poulsen?
Various approaches on this row. You're seeing some long pulls. You're seeing some quick short pulls. Power in, power out is typically the approach on this apparatus. But Jamie, how would you attack this?
What you're seeing is these athletes are getting a big drive back with their legs. They're going to open up their back and finish with a pull to their chest. That is going to maximize your amount of pulls and calories on that machine. So even though the tempo might be a little bit quicker than they would normally go, that is the recipe for success. There is no pacing in this. See Jorge Fernandez just fighting to hold that ring support hold. His arms are bent, but he knows that Josh is so close to getting to that bike. Here's our force. Oh, and they're moving forward.
They're moving forward, but they have company. Prestanda also making their way forward. So too is No Shortcuts. So too is East Nashville Proven, almost in unison. No Shortcuts, bottom of screen. Your champions out of the European semifinal. Prestanda, top of screen, had a top 5 finish in Europe. Time to beat 12:33. That will very much become a factor. Holding up at this point from Heat 1 with the Rhino Dogs. Jeremy, I don't think it's going to make it through Heat 4.
I think they're too far ahead right now. And if I was East Nashville Proven, I'd be giving Tim Paulson about 35 to 40 calories to try and hit. And the pressure now on Tola Moracanyo to be able to hold that handstand and give Tim Paulson enough time.
I think Moracanyo is the best gymnast for East Nashville Proven. Tim Paulson comes down from his handstand and he approaches the bike. 10-minute mark. Here we go.
This is what we wanted to see.
Send it, Timmy.
That is what no pacing looks like.
Oh, we'd love to see it.
That hair whip.
That time's got no chance of standing with Tim Paulson on there.
Oh, he taps out, but the bike favors big athletes, and there aren't much bigger than Tola Moracanyo, and that bike's not going much slower with him on it.
And you saw that was a forced rotation by Tim himself. It wasn't because Tola couldn't hold that handstand support any longer. It was because he sent it as full as he could and had to come down and to make the switch.
Hand is in the air. So is Tola's. East Nashville Proven. That's a test win. By 2 minutes almost. About $1:40. Oh, Nelly.
And that's why there's no pacing. Tim and Tola knew they had to bike one time as hard and as fast as they could.
Well, that was the benefit, was that rotation for Proven was only one rotation for the whole lot.
We don't know this for certain as Preston Da comes across. How many cows do we think Tim Paulson got there?
I've got to think it's got to be roughly 35-ish. He was on there for a long time.
That is amazing and disgusting at the same time.
11:34 for Preston Da. That is second place overall. The time to beat, 12:33 from the Rhino Dogs, still has not come into play. We're going to have more finishers. Oslo Navy Blue, they're done in third. Yeah, Ingrid Hodenmere. Invictus is still out there, your overall leaders. And now here comes Invictus, so they are done. They too edging out the time to beat. No shortcuts got in. 5th place finish for Invictus. They should still be wearing the leader's jersey when competition starts tomorrow. Came in with an 18-point lead over Oslo Navy Blue.
All these teams have mentioned what a tight race this is going to be. They know that the competition is wide open. There are so many talented teams that they are going to, every place matters, every test matters.
Christian Harris in the blue from Move Fast Lift Heavy. Look at Chloe Gavin-David. Just the beautiful, almost swan-like nature of that handstand hold. This is Trondheim, who won the 5K earlier today. And Chloe competed here the last couple of years with Pro 1 Montreal, right onto the bike.
There you see that adjustment of that, the height of that bike. It does take a little bit of time, but when it comes down to the wire, every second counts. You got to get on that bike and go.
Move Fast Lift Heavy is finished. I think everybody is going to finish in this heat. We still have 2 minutes and 10 seconds till the cap. Tim Paulson already did it. You got to be the first man there. Good push of the bike, though, for Trondheim. And everyone is done in 14:10. The first heat to see all 10 teams complete the test. Overall leader Invictus in lane 5, Navy Blue lane 6, East Nashville's Proven squad in lane 4. your top 3 teams coming into the day. You go out to the outskirts, you've got CrossFit Walleye, one of the 2 Swedish super teams in lane 1. They come in 9th place, Jeremy, overall.
Well, I had a chat to Mia and Phil Hesketh this morning and how they were going to structure this out. And Phil was saying he was hoping for about 17 or 18 reps on the first segment, which were going to be fast singles rather than touch and go. And he said it's going to depend on the bounce of the platform.
East Nashville proven. Boy, do they have expectation.
I spoke with Tim Paulson right before this, and one word, they have Tola. Tola Maracano. So he is going to be able to touch and go and power through these snatches pretty quickly.
Me lift fast. Down to Lauren Smith.
Also theoretically a really strong event for CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. After underperforming on that run, Lena Richter's shoe came off. So they really didn't manage to live up to expectation, but they exceeded it in the lifting. Coach Joachim Rai was laughing because both the girls didn't understand that kilogram to pound conversion. So they accidentally opened 3 pounds off their all-time PBs. So running and snatch workout right now will play to their strengths.
We got shoes falling off everywhere at these CrossFit Games. Alex Kazan, tremendous job out here with no shoes yesterday. G-Shock is the official watch of the NOBULL CrossFit Games and is giving you a chance to win a new G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. You can visit gshock.com/CrossFit for more.
They kick things off for the first lot of shuttle runs, the white and red. First athlete for Invictus out in front. If you're just tuning in, the white and the red signifies the leader of the competition. And Invictus have held that, seems like, for the entire competition so far.
Since test 2. They lost test 1, Mayhem Independence, and then after that point forward, Invictus has been in the driver's seat, Brittany Weiss. She'll work with Jorge Fernandez in this first grouping. This is a 400-meter shuttle run, which is broken down into 5 pylon segments.
The thing about the 5K run they did yesterday, this is a completely different test of how you're going to be going through your monostructurals. So your gymnastics, your Olympic lifting, obviously, or your weighted movements, and then your monostructural. So monostructural with the cycle 2 days ago, the 5K run yesterday, now we've got a short sprint. Your body's probably going, what are you doing? Are you doing long or are you doing short?
Absolutely. Your body is getting used to that. And what's hard about this is it's not on a track where you can see, I have 100 meters left, 200 meters left. You see that Lena Richter was able to overtake Brittany Weiss on that run because that distance, it gets longer as you go on that 400-meter run.
And Mia Hesketh is doing warm-up snatches on the left side of your screen for CrossFit Walleye. She holds the record for the biggest snatch in a live CrossFit competition. Nearly 230 pounds because of kilogram conversions back at the 2018 Dubai Championship.
And that bounce of the platform from the barbell, that is almost getting over her knees every time. So probably that 17-18 that Phil Hesketh mentioned is probably not achievable with the amount of bounce and the resetting of the barbells. If the barbell doesn't bounce and it just hits the ground, it's a lot easier to pick up straight away. And you mentioned it, grip and rip.
And interesting to see, we talked about different techniques, touch and go, or fast singles. When you have your fastest or your best, strongest athletes doing singles, I'd probably go with that technique.
And this is a great pairing here for East Nashville Proven. If you're going for max snatches, Taylor Williamson just gonna rip this barbell, and then Tola Maracano almost ominously looming there, waiting to be unleashed. Give me a number. What are we thinking for Tola?
20-something.
22.
It's like waiting for a Tim Paulson echo bike.
Yes.
All right, then. Here we go. Tola Maracano has become a better runner, but I imagine this will just be keeping his heart rate down, getting through this piece, and then getting himself to the barbell.
And when we're looking at running, if running isn't in your forte, you know what? A 400-meter run, all of these athletes can do that. It's a 3-minute test, so he's able to push hard for this, get to those where he's comfortable and where he's going to really excel in those snatches.
Power your performance with Momentous. You can enter to win the ultimate prize pack at livemomentous.com/CrossFit. 14 reps from OBA led the way.
Tola taking a lot of time with this run, and you mentioned it, Jamie, just trying to get that heart rate down because he knows he can grab this barbell and do more reps than anyone in the entire field, individuals probably included. So he's really going to take his time with this.
And this is where experience come into play. You take a look at this field and he is in the back. He is last in this run, but he's not worried at all because he knows when he gets to that barbell, that's where he's going to shine.
Well, and the difference in the run seconds. Tola knows, okay, I'm gonna rip the barbell faster than anybody else. If we were talking about minutes, different story.
100%. He knows that if you lose a couple seconds here, no big deal. He can get way more reps in those seconds that he's gonna make up for on that barbell.
There's 14 reps for Kelsey Keel from OBA, the Philadelphia-based team. Taylor Williamson also had 14 for East Nashville. So Proven is tied for the top score in this heat. And that would be the top score overall, including the first two heats. We are lifting with Alex Alebro. And here is Maracagno. Oh, this is
Hello.
touch and go. 4 reps for Maracagno.
I want to know how many he's going to do touch and go for his first set. It's probably going to be like 15 or 16, or he's just going to do sets of 5.
Yeah. He tried to go touch and go, and I believe it was 275 back at the West Coast Classic for 2 back in 2021.
But smart decision by him. He has about 35 seconds left of these snatches. Sets of 5 or 7 will be great for Tola.
Maracagno has 11 in the bag.
You mentioned 275, Joel. 125 kilos. It's nothing really to sneeze at. But someone of Tola's ability, he's a powerful athlete.
East Nashville Proven has won the test. 27 was the time or number to beat. And that's now 16 reps for Tola, 17. We set the over-under at 20. There's 18. He's not going to get there. 19 reps for Tola Maracagno.
Outstanding.
At 185, and he did it in about a minute plus.
So just as we were excited to see Tim Paulson on that bike last night, this is where we wanted to see Tola on that barbell. Look at him. He wasn't the first one off that run, but he played it to his strengths because he knew when he got to this barbell, it was touch and go. Power snatches for Tola.
Oh, test 6 out of the way. Test 7 now coming. And we're going to throw things back to the second pairing of athletes where it's only 10 reps and then they get to work, and they're going to be working a lot harder on the run than they were previously for the first pairing, for test number 6. And expect all of these athletes to get the touch and go going early, and the 6-minute time cap probably a little bit generous.
Just a 1-minute transition here, although these athletes have been waiting for the entirety of the last test. These are 2 different tests. Test 6 is now done. We have unofficial results on that. Proven 33 reps, that's 100 points. Rhino with a big with a big second place, 97 points for 27 reps. Omnia hovering over that cut line, 3rd at 25. Now we're out here going for the next 100 points in test number 7.
We mentioned Omnia. They really needed to make a move today, and they're doing the right things already.
Is
Here
that a
goes Devin
surprise?
Kim.
A surprise, Joel Christine Middleton, the first off those 10 snatches.
Surprise.
Almost a little bit surprised that she did those 10 snatches instead of the maxed snatches. Instead, Brittany Morello went for that total.
So this is where these 2 tests are brilliantly programmed. Hats off to Adrian Bosman, the competition director. I've talked to multiple coaches and athletes about these 2 tests, and they really, it is a thought-provoking test, because where do you put your strongest athlete? And some chose to put him in test 6, some chose to put him in test 7, but it's all about setting up your teammates for that success, the best success for them.
And your more proficient runners are going to be able to hold their body position for a lot longer. Those that haven't done a lot of sprinting in their time, you'll find that their technique's going to break down just a little bit.
Winter Rodriguez, she is doing the move fast part of her team's name, even though it says lift heavy at the top of the screen. Move fast, lift heavy for the Long Island-based squad.
And a shout out to Winter Rodriguez, a former basketball player, so she is used to these sprints out here.
Qualified to be a member of the Move Fast Lift Heavy team through a combine. Christian Harris said, all right, I got to find some ladies to have on my team, and literally solicited applications. Winter joined the team last year. They did the same thing this year and got a handful of responses, and they wound up with Chloe Govan-David. who was awesome at the games the last 2 years with Pro 1 Montreal. There's the handoff to Will Carter, 10 snatches at 185.
Time's very comparable with the other heats. It's going to come down to this last sprint. How quick can you get on and off the barbell and into your rhythm of the run? The short ones first, the long ones a little bit later on.
And like we talked about, in a team, it is about setting them up, giving them seconds ahead is going to help keep that lead and keep your foot on the gas pedal to keep on going.
There goes Josh Alshama in the red leader shorts for CrossFit Invictus. What's great visually about this test, you can see exactly how this field is playing out as Josh Alshama just continues to run away from everybody.
And Jamie, you think about moving the goalposts and challenging the athletes. They look up every time they go to the start and the distance is longer. What does that do to you mentally?
It is a mental grind to have to go longer. It's like when the reps in a workout go higher, 9, 15, 21 instead of the other way around. But you see for Josh out here in the lead, I talked to him before this test and he was excited. This team as a whole loves running and they knew that Jorge was going to go out in front just to make sure he was fresher for those on his hamstring. He said everybody's feeling good. They're really excited for this and consistency is the name of the game, which he looks pretty consistent out there running.
Time to beat 4:24 as Alshama legging it out on his 5th and final shuttle run to complete this 400 meters of work. 4:24 should be no issue. He'll hit the burners all the way back to the finish line. CrossFit Invictus, you can't get caught if all you do is lead. That's another test win for the San Diego crew. Navy Blue in second. That'll be second place for the test as well, so they'll defend their silver medal spot at the moment. Big finish for CrossFit Francos, the Misfits, coming in 4th in this heat. They're in 10th overall at the start of the day, and East Nashville proven. Guys, they came in as the heavy favorites. Not that 7th place in that heat is bad, but they've got work to do right now, and you've got to start putting up numbers that'll get you moving.
Well, Tim Paulson said it in the interview last night. He said, we are only at the halfway point, and now we can really get to work to the back end of the competition and really make a move.
And this will be a tough finish here for no shortcuts as Julian Kromoshvitz comes through. They had quietly crept up into 4th place overall at the end of day 2 of competition. And that is 10th in the heat. 14:35 is the time to beat. We have an 18-minute cap. Invictus, as your overall leader, is in the middle of the field in lane 5. East Nashville, the crew from the Proven Training Camp in lane 4, trying to make some moves. They were the heavy favorite coming in. Take a look at CrossFit Walleye, our Wild Health team to watch. They had a great morning.
They did. They're coming in 4th position in Test 6, 3rd in Test 7, 200 points up for grabs today. We know the girls are strong. Sam Stewart, great pulling strength, pushing strength. Well, we'll wait and see.
Underway with our test presented by G-Shock here, the official watch of NOBULL, giving you the chance to win a new G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. Visit gshock.com/CrossFit G-Shock, the official watch of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. This is a Big Bob push all the way down the field, 126 feet. As Lauren mentioned, Big Bob weighs 1,188 pounds. For a little bit of perspective for you, the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs starting defensive line weighs 1,170 pounds. You are pushing the Chiefs defensive line down the field.
And interesting, you see right off the bat in CrossFit Invictus, they're going to break this bob push up into 42-foot segments instead of going unbroken all the way. So we'll see how strategy comes into play here.
The other way to put this in perspective, as we look at teams of 4 moving the Big Bob down the field, to reposition the bobs in between heats, it took the CrossFit Games event staff 10 people per bob to move it. Ouch, or in the words of Roman Krenikov, hard. Let's check back in with Lauren Smith.
Guys, I caught up with Omnia, who were the last heat winners with the 1435, and I asked them the secret to success. And they said you need to break up these muscle-ups smaller than you would have expected. That way, you can give absolutely everything on the worm and Big Bob.
Lauren, thank you. And Jamie, that makes a lot of sense because if you remember, Omnia broke several more times than CrossFit Krypton in the last heat and caught CrossFit Krypton in the last heat.
And that's the difference of taking a forced break versus a planned break. If you have this planned where you're going to come down, you rest, you know you can jump right back up. But when you are forced to come down because of a no rep, that is where you're going to run into problems.
Taking a look at lane 2, CrossFit OBA, they had the fastest bob push down from the start line, 126 feet. Took them 57 seconds to start out this test. Looking at Emily Lundberg on the left, Kelsey Keel on the right, who, by the way, at 265 pounds on her clean and jerk yesterday, set the CrossFit Live competition record for heaviest female clean and jerk and the CrossFit Games record for heaviest clean and jerk.
Now, another component that we haven't thought about that hasn't actually popped up in heat number 1 or 2 is the wind has really started to pick up here, and the rings have started to swing around on the Zeus rig. Jamie, I know you're not the tallest athlete of all time. How much more difficult is it being a shorter athlete when the rings are set at one height and you've got to try and settle them?
You see that some of the women out there and men have risers out there, but it is definitely going to play into you. Sometimes a teammate might have to help lift you up to get up to the rings, and every second counts out here. All these teams have mentioned every rep, every second, every test matters.
And not only that, it's the time you're hanging from the rings by the time your teammate goes and gets on theirs.
So we talked about strategy, right? And we had OBA push all the way to the finish line, maybe using their strengths, knowing that they have strong legs, and then they were going to take more breaks on their muscle-ups. While CrossFit Invictus took planned breaks in that bob push and went a little bit further deep in their muscle-up sets.
Well, watch strategy here working with the worm. OBA had gone touch and go to start. They've now taken a huge break. Andre Houdet's No Shortcuts team during semifinals went touch and go with the worm. And taking a look at them from the wide angle of the field, they are not going touch and go now. Text Jocko to 24672. That is Jocko to 24672. Get 30% off of your order at jockofuel.com. It is a one-time use code, good through August 9th. Jocko, get some.
We think about teams moving now onto the bob for the push. OBA spend roughly, we'll say it's a minute, 57 seconds, a minute going all the way down. You'd expect their 3 segments on the way back to be roughly 20 to 25 seconds each one. Your time under tension, pushing that implement down the field, the faster you can do it, obviously, the less fatigue you're going to encounter.
Oh, absolutely. You want to get this work done as quickly as possible and give yourselves time to recover. You'll see some of the transitions, unlike before where athletes were sprinting back to the rig, you might see them walking back because they want to make sure that they are going to be fresh for these muscle-ups.
Looking at Oslo Navy Blue, very few teams out there have as much experience as they do on the Big Bob. Lauren talked about off the top teams that have Big Bobs or replica Big Bobs. Oslo Navy Blue, kind of jerry-rigged one out of some yokes. They know how to train to be here, currently in second place and 40 points out.
I'll have to say, they've probably been a little bit of a dark horse, and they've just been sitting away, chipping away nicely. They haven't really jumped up and surprised anyone with any great test results, but they are sitting pretty right now.
Navy Blue back up to their second grouping of 10 synchronized ring muscle-ups. The synchronicity at the top, so everybody must be locked out. It doesn't have to happen in sync. You just all have to get there before dropping into your next rep. Move fast, lift heavy. Also pushing the pace. Right now your leader is at 32 reps with Invictus and Navy Blue 1 rep back.
And when you think about a test like this with 3 rounds in it, it's not necessarily who is winning the first round or the second round. It comes down to the experience and who has saved some in their legs and to be able to finish this next round of muscle-ups. These athletes know that they still have 10 more muscle-ups on top of this.
Larry has got his couple pairs of hands in the air.
We talked about the variety of pulling in these tests. Adrian Bosman, competition director, had them do strict muscle-ups into that ring support last night. Today, they get to do a kipping swing where they're going to get into a nice arch position, get into their hollow, and then transition over the top and lock out all together.
How does that assist help progress the athlete further down the field, the kipping movement?
It definitely is going to help propel your body more. You're going to think about a pull-up. Doing 20 strict pull-ups versus 20 kipping pull-ups is going to be much more difficult.
They're your overall leaders in that white leaders jersey. Invictus has donned that uniform since test number 3. Devin Kim, former teen athlete, Brittany Weiss, Josh Alshama, and Jorge Fernandez, their second year together as a unit. And here's the problem. If you're some other team trying to catch a 40-point lead for CrossFit Invictus, they're not given ground. A third and a first in the 2 tests this morning. You can't catch somebody that's running faster than you.
I spoke with Josh Alshama before this earlier in the day, and he said they weren't, most of the events they were happy with, some they were not, which is an 8th place still in the top 10 like you had mentioned, but consistency is the name of the game for this team.
Invictus has won at the CrossFit Games before. It was 1 before Mayhem. 2014 was when Invictus won the Affiliate Cup, and then the next year, Rich Froning entered the chat. But it would be an interesting return to Invictus's dominance if the year after Froning retired from competition, the San Diego affiliate made their way back to the top spot.
Everyone got a lot more excited, didn't they? And you think about consistency across the tests. If you are consistently going to go top 10 in every one of the tests here, a number of them between 10 and 20 tests at the CrossFit Games each year, consistently going in that top 10 position, you are going to progress well. You're probably going to be podium. If you've got no outliers, your results are going to show that exactly what Oslo Navy Blue have done. Invictus are just absolutely destroying this.
Jeremy, that's the name of the game. You look at the individual competition, Justin Medeiros, fittest man on earth the last 2 years with 1 individual test win. Invictus out front, moving to Big Bob with that worm. 15 worm clean and jerks completed. And this is the second segmented Big Bob push. It's another 42 feet. And then Invictus will head back to the ring muscle-ups for their 3rd round of 10 synchronized movements. Move Fast, Lift Heavy is in 3rd right now. East Nashville Proven, just to the right of Invictus, is in 2nd.
And speaking with Andrea Nisler, she said that they're very much excited for this classic CrossFit to come up in the programming, and this is very much so it. This is a gymnastics pull, an odd object lift, and a push. So this is going to be right in their wheelhouse.
It's not a walk, it's not a run. It's just kind of a urgent jog, not wasting time, but also catching your breath back to the Zeus rig.
We're talking hare and tortoise type scenario here. Rings moving about a little bit. Wind still blowing a fair bit, cooling things down on the competition floor, but making things difficult once the athletes do get to the rings.
And going back to our recipe for success, did you manage your muscle-ups in their earlier sets to be able to finish strong on this last set of 10?
Invictus is staring down the barrel of another test win. They would have to put forward their slowest round by far to not catch Omnia's 14:35, and by a lot.
Straps for the rings, an important factor as well. The shorter the rings, Jamie, the easier it is. So these long straps, a lot more controlled with your midline stabilization once you do get on top.
Absolutely. You're going to think about, with these long straps, they're going to move, right? A lot more movement with your body. Once you do get to the top, you want to make sure that you are kipping out of that dip as well to help assist you to the very top, especially if you have to wait there for your teammates.
Big break, though, here for Invictus. It looks to be planned the way that they're communicating with one another. Devin Kim just had a long look to Brittany Weiss. They nodded before remounting the rings. Oslo Navy Blue, center of your screen here, in second place overall. East Nashville has jumped in front of Invictus. And these are valuable points. Proven's got to go. They have to do work to catch Invictus. And beating them by one position will help. It won't take a huge bite out of the deficit. But they need all the help they can get to try to climb up the leaderboard with tests evaporating.
And this is where that push the pace comes into play. Who can make it hurt? Who wants to go through that grunt work and grind through these last set of worm clean and jerks, especially on that bob push, and who saved enough in the tank to finish strong?
Oh, Jeremy Proven can make it hurt.
Oh, can't they what? We can do it, Tim Paulson.
I mean, the cycle rate is pretty incredible here for East Nashville. On the left side, you can see Invictus and the white and red leaders jerseys on the right.
Well, the problem is you go out too hot, you're relying on everything to fall into place and your fitness to fall into place to finish strong. But if you leave something in the tank, you can pace it really well and speed up for that last round.
And especially if you do, we want, that is the name of the game, but also the physical part of this, but the mental aspect of this is very important because you know your body is hurting. But if you can will yourself to pick up one more rep and keep on moving, that's going to make a huge difference.
About a minute and a half until the time to beat. One more 42-foot bob push segment after these 15 worm clean and jerks. Great dichotomy here between the Proven crew and Invictus. Second year together for Invictus. Proven, while extremely veteran, they're a new team together, and they don't live in the same place. So this is really the first team test, so to speak, where everyone is moving one implement together. Nisler, Paulson, Williamson, Baracchino, they have moved as a unit. Now can they move the bob faster than Invictus? Dig deep and drive. Invictus is unrelenting. They saw the challenge and rose. How do you win the CrossFit Games? You do it just like that. Invictus will remain your leader heading into the Coliseum.
Oh, come and get us.
You want a challenge, there it is. You see your opposition, their opposing team right next to you. Who can grind that out? And Invictus was able to do that.
Talking about grizzly bears earlier, Joel. Poke the bear with Invictus, they come home strong. What a last push. I'd love to get the split time on that last segment, but that was quick.
$13:49, almost a full minute better than Omnia in heat number 2. Oslo Navy Blue. Second place overall, working their bob to the finish. There's no ground to be gained though. The only team they're chasing is already done. So Navy Blue will be looking up the standings as we head into our next test.
And you see what this is doing to these team members. They are crossing that line and just absolutely falling to the ground because their legs are smoked from that push.
If you think about team versus individual, Jamie, and you've experienced both. With a team, you've got your worm cleaner jerks and this bob push to get through. You sort of rally a little bit more mentally and physically when you've got 3 team members you don't want to let down.
Oh, that's the biggest part about team. The beautiful part about the team is you don't want to let your teammates down. You want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to not let each other. That's the worst thing that could actually happen. And I'm sorry to my teammates for all the times I did. They make a switch here.
I think that's the first time we've seen a rearrangement on the bob. CrossFit Walleye, who, Jamie, we highlighted at the top, they have struggled here. They're going to be able to finish. We have plenty of time until the cap, almost 2 full minutes.
The beauty of the team is that you pick each other up and you can play into each other's strengths and weaknesses. You know that everyone is going to be a little bit different, but you pick each other up no matter what.
OBA is still out there. So too is Prestanda. Invictus, right now with your win. Proven second, no shortcuts third. Omnia, its time from the last heat, holds up for fourth. Prestanda moving after those final 15 worm clean and jerks, and Alex Alebro at the front of the pack with Victor Langsford moving this sled. It does seem like the last push has been significantly easier for everybody.
Oh, the finish line is inside, Joel.
Like you're exhausted, you've got nothing left, and yet it still moves.
They've got those big fans at the end of North Parks putting cold water on you.
Yes.
Athletes haven't moved from there either.
There goes Prestanda. Sixth place qualifiers out of the European semifinal. And OBA is the only team still out there with 30 seconds left to go. This is one of those things you've all experienced if you've done CrossFit in your affiliate. You've got 20 seconds left and one thing to do. Can you get it done before class is over? 15 seconds for OBA. Kelsey Keel and Joey Tortora driving up top. You've got to get across the entirety of the blue segment. And OBA falls just short. Time counts. CrossFit Invictus in lane 5, center of the floor, Oslo Navy Blue. Again, 60 points out is in lane 6. That's the difference between first place and 10th place on the leaderboard here in this test. So it is a gap that is make-upable, but a lot of things would have to happen as we go down to our fourth member, Lauren Smith.
Cheers, Joel. Currently sat in fourth is No Shortcuts. They are just 76 points shy of making a podium, 3 tests remaining. Now, the important thing about them is they have been living in Andre Houde's house for 4 days a week. So in a test that demands spot-on communication, I have a lot of faith that the work they've put in is going to pay off.
Lauren, thank you. Not only living in Andre Houde's house, also his gym. It's the same place. Ninke van Overveld moved from another country to live there and train there. For No Shortcuts. Hey, text G-Shock CF to 87121 for a chance to win a G-Shock watch, a spot at a CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. Terms and conditions do apply, but visit gshock.com/CrossFit to learn more.
Right off the bat, you see CrossFit Invictus had to put that barbell down. We knew that Jorge Fernandez was dealing with a hamstring injury at semifinals, and leading up to this, he said is feeling much better, but maybe they're just being a little bit more cautious on these deadlifts because that is very hamstring heavy.
And it is Andre Houde's No Shortcuts team that departs the deadlift bar first. 805 pounds on that axle bar. That is the equivalent of having each team lift Hafthor Bjornsson twice.
Of course. If you don't know who that is, he's a very, very strong gentleman. And a lot of the teams having no issue with the deadlift component of test number 9 throughout heat number 1 and heat number 2. Franco's Misfits just finishing off, but Invictus, even with Jorge Fernandez's hamstring strain rather than injury, are doing pretty well so far.
Josh Alshama facing us as Invictus works through the dips. Julian Krohm-Auschwitz facing us here on the sandbag squats for No Shortcuts. 39.6 seconds for the 21 deadlifts by No Shortcuts. That was 10 seconds faster than Omnia, who right now has the time to beat one of only 2 teams to finish the test through 2 heats as we go back down to Lauren.
So I want to take a moment to speak about Andre Houde as this new young coach coming through. He's not just had to worry about his team, but he's also had 2 individual athletes competing and a Masters. One of them, Jelle Hoster, currently sits in the men's individual top 10. I spoke to Jelle earlier and he said that Andre is sending him all of his warm-ups, his protocols, and his strategy every single night, as well as trying to be there in person as much as physically possible. This guy is an exceptionally impressive young coach, and he's only just getting started.
Lauren, young coach and young athlete. He competed at the elite level at the CrossFit Games last season, but he said, I'm not in it to finish 27th, which is where he was. If I'm not in the top 10, what am I doing? So he took a step back. He built this team where he can be a player coach, and not only is he in the top 10, he is threatening for a podium spot. The other piece of that, though, is he did say, this is not my team, this is our team, and we're in it as a unit. Oslo Navy Blue, right now, your leaders. We've said it several times today, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They are 60 points out of a gold medal spot after finishing second at each of the last 2 CrossFit Games.
Hey, sometimes being a bridesmaid isn't always the worst thing. We're going to notice on these P-bar dips, what they need to do is they need to synchro at the bottom with their shoulders behind the top of their elbow, as well as at the top in their ring support position. Part of the recipe for success was reduce that time under tension. So you see when they get close to that fatigue level, they're going to hop down, shake it out, reset, so that they can jump back up.
And Jamie, we saw synchronized muscle ups this morning, synchronized at the top. If somebody misses, you can hold at the top and wait. You really can't hold at the bottom of a P-bar dip all that long as your teammate recovers.
It's definitely not recommended. What you want to do is, if that happens, if you get to that point of failure, hop down. It is not worth it to really strain and stress, put a lot of tension and time and stress on those triceps.
4-minute mark. On to the second round. 15 deadlifts here for Oslo Navy Blue.
We're talking about tricep fatigue. You're doing a workout like Murph, for instance, with a lot of running, pull-up, push-up, and air squatting. Once you get to those push-ups, you throw 50 or 60 of those push-ups down, your triceps are going, whoa, time to stop here. But you've still got a fair bit to get through, so they're very weak muscle groups. So something that you really need to do and train a lot.
If you're ready to elevate your performance, you can hop on with RP. Scan the code now for an exclusive bundle, RP Strength, the partner of the 2023 CrossFit Games. As we close in on 5 minutes, a 16-minute time-capped event. Oslo Navy Blue, 60 points out of the overall lead. That's the difference between first and 10th. It's a pretty big gap, but it is a gap that you can make up with still this test and more tests on the docket tomorrow. You just have to hit home runs. There's really no margin for error. Anything less than a top 3 finish could be doomsday.
6 and 7 this morning, 200 points out of this morning, with only 6 minutes on each of the time caps and not needed for that second portion for test 7 to 6 minutes. So a lot of points on offer on Saturday, day 3 of competition.
Look how fast these dips are.
Wow.
Leanna Richter, and she was driving the communication there, looking at Eivind Dalringard. East Nashville proven has the 3rd podium spot. We've talked about no shortcuts, trying to cut their way into the top 3.
And you see that communication from Lena Richter. She's going to make sure that they are communicating how many do you have in you, when do we need to come down, can you do 2, can you do 3?
OBA, one of those teams, and traversing is probably going to be one of the hardest things, and some cycling to get through the parallel bars and just shifting that body weight and utilizing every ounce of your body weight to propel yourself forward, and probably a really smart move, especially trying to limit that time under tension.
We talked about this earlier. You want to get your pairings set them up for success. So if you have an athlete that struggles with some of these dips, you want them on those P-bar dips first, as opposed to doing their sandbag squats, getting exhausted, under fatigue, and then having to do those after.
P-bars are really about going back to the basics. Jeremy talked about 100 words of fitness, or fitness in 100 words. P-bars is in there from the beginning of what CrossFit is, but it hadn't been something that had shown up at the CrossFit Games until last year.
Well, with 365 days of studying and preparation and getting right back into the laboratory, you're seeing the adaptation of athletes out there now able to just go out there and dip their way through this like it is nothing.
The scary thing is, on that same list is pirouettes, flips, and splits. Now, splits ain't happening for me whatsoever, I can tell you that much.
But flips are?
I've already done a backflip, yes. So flips can be done, but splits, no go.
Now, one thing we talked about was the dips are the separating because every round you have to do 21 of those, whereas opposed to the deadlifts and the squats, those numbers and reps are going to go down.
Richter and Ringgaard dropping their sandbag.
They've been quiet while they've been dominant, sitting in that top 3 for the last couple of days.
One thing I did take note of in this previous heat, Alex Smith, as he headed back to his sandbag, was kind of gripping his flow back. And that's one thing you think about when you get to these sandbag squats, the position and where it's sitting on your body is going to force you to be in not an upright position, not evenly. So you're definitely going to put a lot of pressure on your low back.
Oslo Navy Blue is your overall leader in this test. CrossFit Invictus in second. Move Fast Lift Heavy is in third. OBA is in sixth, the team that we just saw on our screens. The test with the P-bars in it last year was called Pegs and P-bars. This is barbells and P-bars. But Move Fast Lift Heavy did have the best finish of any team that is returning here in 2023. They finished third. So not surprising that they are toward the front of the pack. Also not surprising that Oslo Navy Blue was toward the front of the pack. They finished 8th in that test last season.
And very interesting, for most of these teams, we have seen the 2 men on the outside closest to the weights on that barbell. But in this specific situation with Oslo Navy Blue, Ingrid is going to be on the end there.
You could hear Ingrid Tondal screaming through those deadlifts, by the way. The communication is not lacking for Navy Blue.
Over the thump of the weight of the deadlifts hitting the floor, so even more impressive.
Richter just the tap. Your turn to go now.
Up to you.
This is proven.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's just something that hasn't quite clicked yet for East Nashville. They were the heavy favorites coming into this year's games, mainly because of Taylor Williamson and Andrea Nisler, the 2 women from CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, the 2-time defending champions. They added Tola Maracanio and Tim Paulson this year, moving to Proven out of CrossFit East Nashville. But they've never really been in it, and it's weird because they do have 3 test wins this week.
Big time. And Jamie, throw it back to when you were competing on the floor with this axle bar deadlift. Some familiar faces out there.
Oh, looking out at that, Andrea Nisler, Taylor Williamson were out there on a team OC3. Adam Knifer, who is Justin Medeiros' coach, was out there. Also individuals in Christine Kohlenbrander and Bailey Rail were out here 5 years ago in the teams.
Time to beat is 14:17. Next time to beat is 15:58. Here comes Richter.
I don't know if you saw it, but Lena actually waved Ingrid to come down really quickly and said, get a hurry on. We want to have a crack at this time.
There goes Billadell. He's the newest member of this Oslo Navy Blue team, was not on the 2021 team that finished second on the podium. He was last year. Has meshed really well with a unit that has been together on the whole for several years.
Athletes moving their own body weight sometimes have trouble, especially like someone like Tola Maracanio can shift a heavy barbell. Then it comes to moving your own body weight, and that's where you probably don't work as hard. But having that balance between moving body weight and moving external load, really important, especially when you've got to do axle bar deadlifts in your team of 4, and then separate yourselves by doing a sandbag and some P-bar dips at the same time.
Move Fast Lift Heavy is in second right now. Chloe Govan-Divid is a gymnast. facing us. Christian Harris, this team's captain, with his back to us. Oslo Navy Blue is on the verge of finishing, though. 2 minutes ahead of the time to beat. Yeah, Ingrid Hodenmere. Oslo Navy Blue. Oh, they smashed it.
The celebration.
12:32, the time to beat by 1.5 minutes. Oslo Navy Blue, second test win of the 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games. And now here's the good news. Invictus is in 4th. The difference between those two teams is 10 spots in this test. That right there, East Nashville Proven finishing, helps Oslo.
And probably the result they needed as well. They were just chipping away nicely in the background while we had our eyes on Navy Blue.
Here comes Move Fast, Lift Heavy. OBA, they are done. Invictus's lead very, very slightly starting to fall. Here comes Move Fast, Lift Heavy. Now Invictus is next, so they can halt any further damage, although Devin Kim is starting to get no-repped on these P-bar dips.
Oh, and you see that lockout of her elbows. She was able to complete that, but definitely that turnout, pressing, getting everything stacked over each other, over your wrists, your shoulders over your wrists is going to be helpful.
Now 14:17 is the time to beat for Omnia coming into this. So Invictus has got to go. 10 seconds, here comes Jorge Fernandez. And Invictus will indeed just get in ahead of CrossFit Omnia. Those are 3 pretty critical points right there. And the damage is kept to a minimum.
You saw how difficult that was for Jorge. He had just finished his last set of P-bar dips and had to traverse across that. That last couple steps was extremely difficult for him, but he was able to pull through to get that win to get across that finish line for their team.
60 points was the gap between a 1st and a 10th. Invictus and Oslo Navy Blue wind up with a 1st and a 5th. So the lead will be manageable heading into the closing day on Sunday between Invictus and Navy Blue. You want to fight? You've got one.
Tell you what, when you've run out of P-bar dips, you've really run out, don't you?
I'm just wondering how all of these teams for recovery, their shoulders, their triceps, what they have left in the tank for tomorrow.
The ice barrels, and they are available in the vendor village. CrossFit Walleye, done. No shortcuts will be next. Although you said it, Jeremy, when your dips go, your dips go. And Julie Hogard-Nielsen and Julian Kromashvitz are fighting here. "20 seconds. And Kromashvitz is schwitzed. That cap will drop. So 6 teams finish in this heat, only 8 teams overall. And Oslo Navy Blue is now 4th all-time with their 6th career.
1 heat, 20 teams, all out there together. CrossFit Trondheim in lane 1 does have a test win under its belt. The super team from Sweden, Prestanda, in lane 6. Invictus, the leader, dead center of the field in lane 10. Mayhem Independence is in lane 14. Crew from Cookville started this week with a test win in test number 1. But the lane to watch is East Nashville Proven. The defending champions Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson were with Mayhem Freedom last year, and because of that had all of the expectations and pressure, and for some reason, they've been great, but they just haven't been in the mix to win yet.
Expectation has been very high. 3 test wins from semis, the same amount at the games, and just something hasn't clicked, Jamie.
You know, last year they took a small hit after that run, but they won every single test following that. This year they had a small hit on that run, and they've been great, but it just shows you how perfect and flawless you need to be to stand at the top of that podium.
10 seconds in, our clock timer here in this 25-minute time-capped event is brought to us by G-Shock, the official timekeeper of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. You can text 87121 for a chance to win a G-Shock watch, a CrossFit Level 1 seminar spot, and over $400 in CrossFit swag. Scan that QR code on your screen now. East Nashville Proven took a 20th place in that run test earlier on in this competition, and since then has been first, second, or ninth in any test, and it was one ninth place finish. But that is the importance of being able to go out there and be able to push the pace on a run. And of course, we have a significant strength element to this test with that bobsled pole, but you've got to be able to run as well.
Oh, you can't even pace this run. This is day 4 of the CrossFit Games. You have to leave everything out in the tank. And one test this morning in North Park, whatever's coming later on, we'll deal with that later, but they're going to have a little bit of a break, so they really need to empty the tank. And this run, you've just got to make sure all those 4 team members are back as a unit before we get going on the other implements.
Jay Adams for Milford running all by his lonesome at the front of that pack. He's already gone off the screen. You can see the red shorts of Josh Alshama. Invictus, your overall leader, with that white leader's jersey and red shorts.
You'll notice that earlier this week, these teams were tested in a 5K where they had to hold a rope together. But today, they are allowed to run individually, so you can let your fastest runners get a big lead, and some of your slower runners, you have to wait for them to come back to get those jerry cans.
Here is Adams. Those jerry cans are tandem, so each team has 2 jerry cans. Each jerry can has 3 handles. Figure out how you want to hold them amongst yourselves. The male jerry can is 200 pounds. The women's jerry can is 150 pounds.
Well, it's something you've got to think about on the fly, and something that competition director Adrian Bosman has thrown at these athletes. Hey, you've got to work this out on the go. You haven't got time to strategize prior.
All right, so once the jerry cans are loaded up onto the bob, and right now it's a small carry because the bob is all the way at the blue end zone. You've got to make your way down over these logs and get situated in this brand new implement that Bill and Katie Henniger put together at Rogue. Sat down with competition director Adrian Bosman in the offseason and said, what can we craft up that's a little bit new to throw a twist into this mix?
And that is so creative. I love that these are new implements they're having to test these athletes' strength, their skills, their actual togetherness as a team. And you see here, we have actual athletes on the ground using themselves to help heave, and teammates can jump over that log traverse, and then if they're the final one, they'll be the last one to get themselves over that.
Literal lemmings out there. And now as we get set to pull this bobsled, feel the rhythm and feel the rhyme, try to move as one. 3 minutes and 11 seconds gone by.
Oh, Joel, it's just like a Viking boat, and the call of stroke every time. Athletes working in unison, and that bob just isn't sliding very much.
But Invictus, off a 2-minute first round run pace, is your first team to make it off of its initial pull. You got to pick the jerry cans back up, move them back to the blue end zone, and then begin on your second round 500-meter run.
Grip strength has been a factor all weekend. They've done a lot of work, upper body pulling, and now it's just how much grip strength you've got left. Coming into day 4, Jamie, what do you do with your arms on this run? You notice a couple of athletes having their arms by their side and trying to shake them out a little bit. What do you do to recover?
Oh, I mean, this is the 4th day. Your body feels like it's been hit by a bus, a train, a plane, everything you can think about. But you know what? Whatever is coming, this is the final day. You have to leave everything out there. You want to try to relax as much as you can in between. I love the team aspect of this, is that even though they have to run, they can run individually at their own pace, they're going to have to come back in and really depend on each other.
2 teams leading the test right now are the 2 teams leading the field, Invictus and Oslo Navy Blue, and there's Josh Alshama checking his pace on that G-Shock watch. Lonely at the top.
The only place they want to be, I think.
And Josh Alshama prides himself. He says that he's great and he loves those cardio pieces, machines, and he's proving that being out in the front.
Jorge Fernandez is the team's captain. He runs from behind.
No person left behind, Joel. Round them up like sheep. Let's go, team.
If Invictus wins, that would obviously put them on the podium. They would become just the second affiliate in CrossFit Games history to podium twice with the exact same group of athletes. Of course, Ute was victorious back in 2012 and 2013. The only other affiliate to ever do it. First run was 2 minutes and 2 seconds for Invictus, continuing to push the pace here. Get your official 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games gear and score a bonus gift with purchase. You can scan the QR code to redeem and view terms and conditions now. And those jerry can bags that became so popularized last year in the capital event for the elite individuals. 200 pounds for the guys, 150 pounds for the ladies. Their second run, 2 minutes and 7 seconds.
And Joel, the further you get away from the subposition, the further you got to carry them. And the spring over the logs, probably something that we can relate straight back to Olympic lifting and how explosive you need to be.
Oh, a lot of people do not know, but Olympic lifting can help with your vertical jump because it is so explosive and dynamic. And you see these Invictus athletes having no problem. They don't need any assistance. They're going to put their hands on that log and pop right over.
And now they get set for this bob sled pull again. The loaded bob weighs 858 pounds. But remember, you also had to put the jerry cans on top of the bob, so it increases the weight to 1,208 pounds. For perspective, we are in Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Brewers starting lineup last night was 1,700 pounds. You are pulling essentially the entire Milwaukee Brewers team down the field, one stroke at a time.
Love story time with Joel.
Load them up on there. I would love to see that.
That's right.
Across the field.
But in comparison, 708 kilos, that is a heavy shift for the 4 team members to get down the field. And probably a benefit they've got of going this early in the morning, that it's not too hot on the competition floor right now. Things will obviously heat up later on.
Invictus made this seem so easy.
Right, and we're seeing a couple different techniques on that log. So some athletes will pop up and have their chest upright and pop both feet over. Some are going to stay close and roll their legs over.
Jorge's doing it so easy. Watch this last. Oh, come on, buddy.
In fairness, that was the shortest log.
I know, but no hamstring issues, obviously.
Move fast, lift heavy, making their way back into what will be their third run, and this the final CrossFit Games appearance for Christian Harris, the team's captain, for the group based out of Long Island. Let's go down to Lauren Smith.
I spoke to Chris this morning and I asked him, is it a real retirement? And he laughed. He did nod his head and say, yes, I think so. But he's been such a key cog in the team's competition across the years. They currently sit in 4th. Now, the likelihood of them really challenging for podium with over a 100-point deficit on proven is slim. But this will be one of the strongest performances that, as individuals, they've collectively had, with Chloe Govin-David with 2 ninths and a 5th over the years, and Chris Harris equaling his best games performance of 4th. So I can say we've had a really strong weekend for Move Fast, Lift Heavy.
Lauren, thank you. This is CrossFit, folks. You are retired when you are 6 feet under. I will believe that when Christian Harris doesn't sign up for the Open next year.
Well, I spoke to a lot of these teams and athletes coming into this week, and a lot of them, Alexis Johnson, Logan Collins from CrossFit Franco's Misfits, had mentioned this is their last go at this. And you know, it is so tough. Talking to them about it, it got them emotional, it got me emotional. It just, you pour your heart and soul into this, and to know this is your final go, you can't help but fight back those tears.
They made a documentary about Michael Jordan titled The Last Dance, and he played for the Wizards.
Okay, then I'm not so sad. We'll see them out here next year.
Jamie, while they're out on this run and coming back into North Park once again, the programming from competition director Adrian Bosman's been interesting because they can't really get comfortable in this test for a specific amount of time. It's very short. They're either carrying the jerry cans or they're jumping over or traversing the logs, then they're getting in, they're pulling, then they're going back and forward. So you can't really get into a rhythm. How does that work with your team dynamic when you're normally used to working in a rhythm?
I think what happens is if you train together enough, like Invictus does, they are all in-house. They train every single day together. They know each other so well, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, so that I think it's easier to adjust on the fly and figure these apparatuses out.
Josh Alshama is from the United Kingdom, but he has been in Southern California for the better part of the last 2 years. This is an Invictus unit that is truly an Invictus affiliate team. Devin Kim began doing CrossFit at Invictus. Jorge Fernandez began doing CrossFit when he wandered in one day, quite literally off the street. This would be the first true, quote-unquote, affiliate team to win the CrossFit Games since CrossFit Invictus back in 2014. "25-minute time cap. Just past the 10:30 mark, and again the jerry can carry is getting a little bit longer as that bob is pulled further and further toward the finish. Fastest bob pull, we're looking at 42-foot segments, 1 minute and 13 seconds. That belongs to OBA right now. And this is like school children at recess. Single file, almost unisonly spaced, one after the other, popping over these logs.
The log traverse really hasn't proven to be so much of a test, just some kind of an annoyance on the way from your jerry cans to your bob pull back to that run. But what I've really admired about these teams is that they have figured it out. The bob pull doesn't seem like too big of a task for them. They are going to think about getting their legs set up, reaching with their arms extended forward, all heaving back in one motion back with a big drive back with your legs and finishing with your arms. Almost similar to a row, but a very heavy waters over there.
Rowing in unison here for Invictus. This is round 3 of the bob pull, and the times are getting faster. Invictus has been caught up to by Trondheim. They're now in second place with a 1 minute and 39 second 500-meter run in the middle of a test.
And thinking about the running they've done this weekend, this is a heavy 500 meters for 4 rounds. That's 2,000 meters of running that they'll be doing, which is not, that's a mile and a 400 on top of that. And that is quite a bit of running in the middle of this workout test.
Back over the log, traverses and out. Invictus comes into the final day looking for an opportunity to stomp on the throat. You're the overall leader, don't open the door and allow other people in, and that's exactly what's happening. The Sea of Green, your leaders in this test. East Nashville Proven is in 7th place. Oslo Navy Blue is in 5th place right now.
This is the first time we're seeing athletes, once they pull that bob past that first log traverse, they now have to get that jerry can over that log before they can jump over.
This is the only log where that is an obstacle. But it is a nice little added twist that Adrian Bosman threw in.
Joe, you mentioned that pressure, and you come into day 4 of competition, you've got a massive lead when you're Invictus, but if you just nail that home, the first test of the final day, everyone else just sort of sits back and goes, okay, we can't catch you. We see that so often in competition, but Invictus, they are looking outstanding.
Final run here for Invictus. This is a 4-round test. So 2,000 total meters of running. Better than a mile by the end of the test. Then the jerry can carry. You've got to jump over the logs, and then that 42-foot synchro bob pull with this planted torture apparatus to either help or inhibit you in doing so that has been added into the mix this year by Rogue.
As Jamie said, depending on your fatigue level, you're either in really flat water or you're in deep water. Some of these teams really starting to struggle with that pull.
Lauren spotlighted move fast, lift heavy. Christian Harris's bunch is in 2nd place. You have Prestanda, the Swedish team, right behind them.
How can you retire when you look like that?
You can't. Speaking with Griffin Raleigh, he's a 2-time CrossFit Games athlete on the demo team this year, and it was very surprising for me to find out that he said he believes that this test can be won or lost in that run, because I think teams aren't surprised. They're surprised to know what pace you have to be able to hold on that.
This took the demo team 20-ish minutes. Griffin Riley didn't remember exactly what they did, but he said about 20 minutes. They finished under the cap. The teams at the front of the pack right now are going to finish way under the cap. 25 minutes with which to complete the work. This is the final round, still 10 minutes ahead of that final time. As Invictus makes the turn to come back in to North Park for the final time.
CrossFit Invictus doing exactly what they need to do. Sometimes with running in the middle of a test, you think of that as a recovery almost, but CrossFit Invictus knows that they're pushing this pace, and if they want to win this whole thing and prove to stand at the top of the podium, they need to go at a hard effort on those runs.
Invictus is looking for test win number 3 if they can put this away. 2-minute and 22-second run in their 4th and final round. It's their slowest run so far, but by about 10 seconds. They're not losing a ton of pace at all. This would be test win number 9 in the history of Invictus. They've been here every year. There has been a team competition. Only affiliate that can claim that. 14th team appearance. CrossFit Fort Vancouver is second with 10.
Boy, still got springs in those legs. Those jerry cans getting a little heavier as they progress down North Park. 25-minute time cap for second last test of the weekend. And there is no stopping Invictus.
Final bob pull. The guys up front, Jorge Fernandez on the left, Josh Alshama chalking up on the right, and here we go on this final 42-foot sled pull.
Another thing to keep in mind, the final athlete sitting at the back has got to deal with all that excess rope that is coming down the field as well, so you're probably going to be covered in rope.
This sled is almost to the finish line for Invictus, and there's not another team seated yet to begin pulling. We said it yesterday. How do you win the CrossFit Games? You got to come out here and get the job done. And on the final day of competition, with their lead cut into last night at the Coliseum, the Sea of Green from San Diego, Invictus looking for their second CrossFit Games championship. Ring the bell and answer it. You can see the judges waving them through. Hands in the air for Invictus. They will wear the leader's jersey heading into the final test at the 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games.
Out of the Viking boat and throwing down the Viking hammer. We are unstoppable.
Floodgates are now going to start to open. Move fast, lift heavy, done in 18:16. Festanda 2 seconds later. East Nashville proven, trying to wind up on the podium. Clinging on to a 3rd place finish, East Nashville proven is now done in 18:28. 4th place. Trondheim with their 2nd best finish in 18:39. Oslo Navy Blue nowhere to be seen yet. Number 2 team in the overall standings, and no shortcuts will get in ahead of Oslo. Oh, points are evaporating, and there is Oslo Navy Blue, 8th place in just inside 19 minutes.
The nice thing about the cuts is that we are down to our final 20, so there is one heat of all 20. You know exactly where you are compared to all these other teams.
Smith brothers running together, competing together. First time they've been able to do that here at the CrossFit Games.
Exactly what a younger brother should be doing. Stick with the old guy.
Tell you what, from a visual standpoint, pretty darn cool to watch all those logs, all those rows. Raph Durand, Ethan Helbig for the Rhino Dogs, and you can see that drive back across the turf. Time cap should be no issue. The question comes down to how much you want to hurt. And the answer is a lot.
You see them immediately roll over. They are spent. This is a very taxing test all around on your central nervous system, all these big muscles, all the little muscles, as well as your biceps, as your lats, as you're pulling back on your legs.
There's Krypton. Second place as an affiliate. Alex Smith was on that team back in 2019. Talk about the domination in the team competition. Since teams went to teams of 4, that was the 2018 games, so 18, 19, 21, and 22. 12 possible podium spots. 4 affiliates have taken 10 of those podium spots. Krypton is one of them. Mayhem, Oslo, and Invictus are the other 3.
Well, we saw earlier in this week that CrossFit Krypton Ben Smith had suffered a small injury, maybe tweaked something in his knee a little bit, so you wonder how much that comes into play with all this running, the jumping, pushing back on that bobsled drag with your knees and your legs. So you see him gingerly coming around on that run, who was able to complete all of these jumps, and here giving it his all on these last bumps.
Speaking to Griffin Raleigh earlier, and he said the males were going to have to start at the front so they can take the brunt of the load. Surprised to see Ben front and center, but probably that's where you're going to be leading for your team anyway.
And he's a former games champion. You know, I bet he took that with pride. He's like, I'm going to be right up there in the front.
You're going to kick me out just yet, injury or not.
Carolyn Connors on the right, Aaron O'Donnell on the left, an individual games athlete. Loaded North Park, trying to encourage Krypton here to the finish line, and the clock will save you not. Cap is still 2.5 minutes away.
Jamie, going back over the last 3.5 days of competition, and you think of the tough tests that they have done, where does this compare visually?
This is going to be really, really tough on their core. You see them giving it everything they have. They're going to need this crowd to help them with their adrenaline to finish this workout, this test strong.
One of the most celebrated athletes in CrossFit Games history, 11 times as an individual for Ben Smith. The 2015 fittest man on earth, and for the final time, he competes with a stage to his own at the end of this test here at North Park in Madison. The game's moving on after 2023. And exhausted is the way Ben Smith goes out in Madison with his team finished in 23:10 unofficial.
I don't think he'd want it any other way, would he? Empty the tank. It's day 4.
See the rest of the competition in lane 5. East Nashville Proven is in lane 6, Navy Blue in lane 4. Those are your second and third place teams at the moment. Move Fast Lift Heavy still has a podium shot. They're in lane 7, 90 points behind. They would need a lot of things to break their way, but mathematically very much still a possibility for Christian Harris's crew. Our Wild Health teams to watch as we go into this final heat of our final test. We wouldn't be doing it justice if we didn't take a look at that team in the white leaders jerseys with the red bottoms. CrossFit Invictus. Josh Alshama with the black headband said, I don't like bronze. We've already got a bronze medal. That was last year. They came back for gold. And we spoke to CJ Martin. It was interesting. He said, not having Mayhem Freedom this year, not having to worry about chasing Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson on that proven team. They were with Rich Froning and Mayhem last year. They've been more free, and they can just go out and compete as themselves, and it's made a difference.
Oh, you take that pressure off yourself, and you know that someone who's been so dominant for so many years is now out of competition. You were in that podium contention last year, so there's every chance you can take that #1 spot.
Also saw Oslo Navy Blue there, trying to become the first team in CrossFit Games history to finish second 3 times. 7 seconds into our final test on our G-Shock timer, the official timekeeper of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. This is a 96-foot unbroken handstand walk for these athletes. Every athlete must start their handstand walk before the first athlete crosses midfield, that blue line. And if any athlete breaks, every athlete behind them has to go back to the starting line. That does not appear to be an issue at this point, although Invictus is lagging behind in the middle of the field.
Josh Alshama trying to balance in the midway of the Coliseum right now.
And Devin Kim almost took him out.
Traffic's tight.
We talked about strategy in this handstand walk. Because it has to be unbroken, you know, do you put your best handstand walker first? Do you put them last? And for this reason, your best one will go last so they can control that pace of slowing down or speeding up when they need to.
Everybody making it across for their opening handstand walk.
They're resting adequately enough so the whole team can now start their progress all the way back down the field, so break.
It almost felt like for a moment something was wrong.
And they finished.
Everybody just stopped.
There's a little bumper cars out there. It's okay.
No, this is teamwork. This is teamwork. You all ready? All right, here we go. We hand walk as one. 24 seconds by no shortcuts. CrossFit was the fastest for that opening 96 feet.
And Jamie, it was like the teams were just sitting there looking left and right going, okay, you go first.
And that's the name of the game. You can get caught up in looking and seeing where you are, but really it is what your team is capable of, and especially you have to think about your weakest handstand walker. Are they able to go unbroken, rest enough so that they can make it 96 feet down the competition floor? When I think about this, 94 feet is an entire basketball court, and I can jog that, but handstand walking the whole thing is very tough.
Handstand walking is done if you're done with it here. Now we're on to the earthworm. Again, 4 sections strung together with rope. For the men, it's 125 pounds. For the women, it's 100 pounds. It is 10 thrusters and then 24 feet of a walking lunge. And there's a no rep for East Nashville proven. And they should have had to put that earthworm back down and pick it up to go again. And again, that's the case. No reps are supposed to lead to that earthworm hitting the ground.
And we're going to find out pretty soon who can manage the new earthworm the best.
And right off the bat, you see these teams, if you're used to using a conventional worm, what we're used to seeing all strung together, it moves in one unit. But however, with these separated bags, everyone is on their own. It almost creates a slinky effect if you're not moving in unison together.
And now look at that unison for Move Fast Lift Heavy. Christian Harris started lunging, and he was called back by his team. They weren't ready.
Goes back to our recipe for success. Communication is key. This is our final test in the Coliseum. It's loud in here. Can you hear your teammates? Can you work together? Can you talk together verbally and non-verbally when it's loud?
Move Fast Lift Heavy just dropped the earthworm because Winter Rodriguez walked into Will Carter. The flexibility of this implement is so much different than a typical one-piece worm because you have a little bit more autonomy. You can't walk into your buddy with a regular worm. It's not going to let you, but rope folds.
And all these teams have a lot of experience with the worm, but none with something like this. I doubt a lot of these teams are working on individual sandbags kind of linked together, but it makes it completely a different movement on these thrusters and walking lunges.
Josh Alshama, the second male for Invictus, was struggling getting a couple of hands on the middle rope, so that has slowed down Invictus, and you have to have your hands on the bag portion of the earthworm. With 4.5 minutes gone by into a 12-minute capped event. 76-point lead for Invictus. Pretty comfortable position, looking for their first affiliate cup since 2014. The next year was Rich Froning's first championship of 6 with CrossFit Mayhem Freedom.
Not saying that I did this, but with the worm, you can typically depend on your teammates to help you out and take a little bit of the load off. With this, it is completely on your own. You have to balance it yourself. You have to make sure you're pulling your weight.
East Nashville Proven is in second place overall. They are currently in first place here in this final test. They would need to win the test and have Invictus finish 17th or worse in order to overtake them for the overall lead. And now Invictus, you can see on the left of screen, is coming up behind them. And that big gasp was CrossFit OBA. Kelsey Keel just got wrecked off screen by this earthworm. It has been a learning process in this 5.5 minutes.
Dumping the earthworm, it seems, Joel, you mentioned the folding of the rope, but the entire earthworm is folding up in itself if they're not getting the bags hitting the ground at the same time. Taking the extra time to adjust, get it back up onto your shoulder. That's going to be taking crucial seconds away from this 12-minute time cap.
Not only that, if you don't hit the bottom of the squat at that same time, it's going to have a lag in that rope, creating unevenness in that worm.
And I stand corrected. This is actually the handstand walk that Kelsey Keel is fighting to get through, and this is where your team and your crew comes in to really play a huge role. Joey Tortora and Emily Lundberg just trying to keep her going. Here's Oslo Navy Blue on the right side, and there you can see what this worm does.
Like dominoes.
There's usually a signal of an up and a down, and you'll see out here, especially on the down, if they put it down at the same time, it's going to rock these athletes, and they're going to drop down at different times.
Invictus is now your leader, although you've got to straighten out that earthworm. And they've been passed as they've had to deal with that earthworm. So move fast, lift heavy. They now lead the way with East Nashville Proven right next to them. And shouts, by the way, to the East Nashville Proven crew, because they are sitting in second place overall, which is nothing to sneeze at. But I think the expectation game for them was so high, almost impossible to live up to. It feels like there's something left out there with them being in second.
The pressure can be immense, especially if all eyes are on you. You have your former champions out there. This is a new team. You're adding an incredible individual to your team. But how much time do you spend training together versus teams like Invictus that are in-house every day, in and out? You see all the strengths, you see all the weaknesses.
And there is Kelsey Keel again for OBA, fighting through the handstand walk portion of this test. $76 points is the lead for CrossFit Invictus. We talk about the CrossFit Games as being the elite of the elite. So how does this trickle down to your affiliate? And we spoke to Invictus's head coach, CJ Martin, at the athlete briefing today, and he said, it's pretty cool for the general members of our population in San Diego, because you can see that trophy and say, what are your goals? We'll help you get there. It's a great demonstration of these athletes, their goal was to win the CrossFit Games. We helped them get there.
Oh, tip of the spear type stuff. And fitness obviously is for everyone, and you might have a goal to do a push-up or an air squat or whatever it might be, or just get moving for 5 minutes. And the crowd really getting behind Kelsey Keel now to bring home that final handstand.
8:45 left, or rather into this test. 10:34 is the time to beat.
What I love about CrossFit East Nashville Proven is the resiliency. You see them here grinding. They might have tests that have not gone exactly the way they wanted, but they are pushing through and grinding through this last test.
Invictus is right there with them. East Nashville Proven will win test 11. But in 15 years of CrossFit Invictus sending teams to the CrossFit Games, they positioned themselves not to pick up bronze, not to pick up silver. But in year 15 of CrossFit Invictus, making it to the CrossFit Games, they have 5 reps. They are done. It is gold. CrossFit Invictus, kind of a big deal. They're the Affiliate Cup champions in 2023.
Oh, what an amazing performance from Invictus. You mentioned bronze last year, but jumping ahead of that second spot. They didn't want to go 1, they wanted to go 2. And they have jumped into that #1 spot, and consistency really got them over the line in the last 4 days.
When that is your sole goal is to come here and win the CrossFit Games, and you finally see that come into fruition and you cross that final line, there is no better feeling. The emotions take over you. You can't help but think about all the hard days of training, the bad days of training. They have finally paid off.
No more consistent affiliate in all of CrossFit than Invictus. They become just the third gym to have a multi-time championship team. Omnia comes across in the final year of that quad together. They finish in 10:33, and the time to beat from the opening heat has now passed at 10:34. Here comes Walleye, move fast, lift heavy as well. Those teams were in 5th and 4th, respectively. And the cap is about a minute away as Kelsey Keel is trying to finish her handstand walk. You've got Prestanda and Mayhem working on their earthworm still. Tell you what, this is not going to be, and there's the fall. This is not going to be the way that Kelsey Keel wanted to go out, but if she had been able to finish that handstand walk, the ovation would have been like none other.
This test is grueling because there is no place to hide. You see that in the handstand walk, the unbroken handstand walks, and especially with the separated earthworm bags.
Mayhem Independence, first time at the games for Sam DeMeester. Good experience for he, Zoe Jones, Angelo DeChico as he grows into a captain's role. And as the time cap hits, team competition in Madison has come to its close.
End of a very long weekend. The new earthworm, the new implement that was going to hit some of these teams pretty hard with a handstand walk, 192 feet to kick things off. And a great battle up the floor. Invictus, a little bit of a deficit to start things off. And trying to manipulate this new implement. East Nashville proven. Paulson at the head, and a great finish.
That's his first podium as a CrossFit Games athlete. .909 for East Nashville proven. They come in second overall. Invictus, your champion, Oslo Navy Blue, in 3rd place. Same team podiums at the CrossFit Games with the same 4 athletes for Oslo Navy Blue, just the 2nd time that has ever happened. Youth back in 12 and 13 when they won the title, the other gym affiliate that has had that occur. And the camaraderie of competition against one another. But there are 4 athletes down there that feel a whole heck of a lot better than the rest. Invictus are your champions.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing your 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games Team Champions, CrossFit Invictus.